Chapter 1690. Brat, you probably don't want to die fast enough. Jiang, Chapter 179. More than a dozen supreme, sacred sect cultivators smiled sinisterly and surrounded Su Fong. These cultivators were brought here by the supreme, sacred young master, and the weakest among them was an immortal emperor of the seven paths of the saint immortal realm. Su Fong smiled faintly and ignored these supreme, sacred sect cultivators. Flames appeared under his feet, and he came to Tsang Shui with lightning speed. I'm Su Fong, don't resist. You. Tsang Shui looked at Su Fong in disbelief like a block of wood. Su Fong shot out a Xianguang and took Tsang Shui into the True Dragon Realm. In the True Dragon Realm, Tsang Shui was still in a daze. He couldn't believe what had just happened was real. One of Su Fong's young immortals came to Tsang Shui. You're not bad. If you're willing, you can stay by my side. I promise you won't be any worse than you being a mercenary. With a thought, a storage ring was sent to Tsang Shui by the True Dragon Realm's Dharma treasure. Tsang Shui grabbed the storage ring and saw that there were 10,000 peak, supreme-grade, yin-yang, immortal sky pills inside. He felt like he had been hit in the head by a huge pie that fell from the sky. He was so dizzy that he couldn't tell north from south. At this moment, Dai Yi flew over. Tsang Shui, it's your great fortune to be able to follow Su Fong. With his current strength, ordinary Dao realm cultivators won't catch his eye at all. Only then did Tsang Shui realize how lucky he was today. Outside Su Fong's body, more than a dozen supreme, sacred sect cultivators rushed towards Su Fong from behind. Yellow Spring Blood Sea, devour. A surge of samsara divine might burst out of Su Fong's body and formed a whirlpool around him. It turned out that Su Fong had crushed the flesh and bones under his skin and turned them into blood to activate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea's ability. The terrifying, devouring power drew the dozen or so cultivators towards him. The cultivators of the supreme, sacred sect all turned pale with fright. They cast their spells or activated their Dao weapons, trying to get rid of the devouring power of Su Fong's underworld blood sea. However, they were shocked to discover that not only were they unable to control their bodies, the divine might of their divine abilities and Dao artifacts were also disintegrating and collapsing under the terrifying, devouring power. Jiang, Chapter 179. What was even more shocking was that their qi, blood, genuine qi, and life aura were leaking out bit by bit. They were sucked into Su Fong's reincarnation vortex and then seeped into Su Fong's body. Looking from the side, Su Fong was shrouded in a blood mist vortex, looking very evil. In just a few breaths of time, the flesh and blood of more than a dozen cultivators of the supreme sacred sect were devoured by the Su Fong, turning into shriveled corpses. Su Fong withdrew his divine power, and the corpse fell beside him. After cultivating the Yellow Spring true body, the power of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea was terrifying. It killed more than a dozen experts with ease, and there was even an early-stage Dao realm expert among them. In an instant, Su Fong turned into a terrifying evil god that devoured lives in everyone's eyes. Su Fong's early-stage Dao realm aura also leaked out. A cultivator of the evil path. This man is actually a cultivator of the evil path and an early-stage Dao realm immortal venerable expert. The cultivators of the supreme sacred sect all cried out. The old man of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect said majestically, a mere early-stage Dao realm cultivator of the evil path dares to behave so atrociously in front of me? I'm from the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and originally wouldn't intervene in the affairs of the supreme sacred sect. But since this matter is related to Su Fong, I have no choice but to suppress you and strip your memories. Remember my name. Your name is not worthy of being known by me. Besides, you're about to die, so why should I know your name? Su Fong interrupted the old man domineeringly. Arrogant Junior, you're courting death. The old man was infuriated. After performing the hand seal, he separated his hands, causing a monstrous wave to surge out from between his palms. It carried a terrifying aura that seemed to be able to devour everything as it rumbled towards Su Fong. Boom! Su Fong wanted to test the power of the golden body of the Nether and use other divine abilities. Instead, he activated the reincarnation sword intent and formed a seal to release the reincarnation divine aura that collided with the old man's monstrous torrent. Monstrous waves splashed out like raging waves crashing against the shore, causing the surrounding cultivators of the supreme sacred sect to stagger. Even the huge barrier and arch of the immortal world shook violently. Boom, boom, boom. Under the effect of the reincarnation divine aura, the torrent was led to the side and circled around Su Fong. Reincarnation. Rumble. The torrent formed by the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man's divine ability was all reversed and crushed toward the old man. The old man's divine light flickered, and he hurriedly formed a seal to confront Su Fong with all his might. How dare a heretical cultivator like you act so atrociously in the supreme sacred sect's territory? The supreme sacred young lord shouted coldly. Scorching flames burst out from his body, and a 3-meter-long fire hornless dragon could be vaguely seen circling in the flames. Fire hornless dragon, incinerate this man. The supreme sacred young lord pointed at Su Fong, and the fire hornless dragon roared and pounced towards Su Fong like a fire dragon. A scarlet fire hornless dragon? Su Fong raised his eyebrows and released a supreme, divine dragon aura. The aggressive Huo Wu had suddenly turned into a well-behaved and obedient little snake. It curled up and shivered, as if it had encountered the most terrifying existence in the world. Su Fong released a dragon aura that wrapped around the fire hornless dragon and shackled it inside the void dust cauldron. Give me back my fire hornless dragon. The supreme sacred young lord roared in disbelief and released a divine aura that seemed to gather the power of the entire world of immortals. It came crashing down on Su Fong with supreme dominance. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man also formed a shocking seal and sent a torrent of water towards Su Fong like the Milky Way from the 9 heavens. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless. Su Fong sneered his heart and fully unleashed the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation aura. Boom! Space twisted and distorted. The supreme sacred young lord's aura shattered layer by layer under the Nether Blood Sea's power. His blood energy, true chi, and life force were also rapidly drained away. The Milky Way descending from the sky also crumbled under the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation aura and dissipated into nothingness. Not only that, but the supreme sacred young lord and the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man also lost control of their bodies and began to move towards Su Fong. They couldn't use any combat arts in the face of the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation and devouring power. Their blood energy, true chi, and life force leaked out of their bodies and were directly devoured by Su Fong. The deadlock lasted for about a dozen breaths. A ruthless glint flashed in the old man's eyes. His true chi, blood energy, and life force suddenly ignited. He was planning to burn everything in him to use a forbidden art to break free from the Nether Blood Sea shackles. Second nascent spirit. Suppress his nascent spirit and strip his consciousness. I want to see why the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect sent such a powerhouse here. Su Fong immediately released his second nascent spirit. Whoosh! The black mystic light shot out from between Su Fong's eyebrows and hit the old man's forehead with a pop sound, drilling into his mind. With the power of his second nascent spirit and the Dark Valley origin orb, it could even fight against the demigod. Suppressing a mid-level Tao realm cultivator would be a piece of cake. Soon, the old man's eyes became dazed and his burning true chi, body, and life force calmed down. This person's memories are quite interesting. The second nascent spirit suddenly exclaimed after searching the old man's soul. Su Fong couldn't care less about the old man's memories for the time being. It's your turn now. The supreme sacred young lord was still struggling. Su Fong sneered disdainfully and walked up to him. He reached out and pressed his palm against the young lord's head. This is the supreme sacred sect. My grandfather, the supreme sacred forefather, Won't let you go if you kill me. The supreme sacred young lord threatened Su Fong loudly, but his body trembled. He was clearly terrified. I even dared to kill the experts of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, let alone you. Besides, I've already killed a dozen. What's one more? Su Fong said coldly. Suddenly, a nascent spirit flashed out and cupped his fists at Su Fong. Fellow Taoist, I am the supreme sacred forefather. Can you give me some face and let my descendant go? The cultivators around gasped. The supreme sacred forefather was a high-level Tao realm cultivator in the chaotic sky great world. He was the founder of the supreme sacred sect, and his strength was unrivaled in the chaotic sky great world. At this moment, he suddenly appeared, and he seemed to be very polite to Su Fong. He actually treated Su Fong as an equal. Su Fong's divine light swept the scroll on the arch door and looked at Qi Yanzi. Su Fong said indifferently, "The supreme sacred young lord didn't want to give me face just now, and neither did your supreme sacred forefather. In that case, I won't care about anyone's face." Wait, the supreme sacred forefather was already wary of Su Fong when he saw Su Fong kill the experts of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect as if they were chickens. He didn't know how strong Su Fong was, so he was even more wary of Su Fong now. Su Fong said indifferently, "What else do you have to say? Let my descendant go, and I won't make things difficult for you. You can leave. How about it?" "Nothing." Su Fong's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Boom! Blood exploded from Su Fong's palm and covered the supreme, sacred young lord's body, sizzling as it corroded. The supreme, sacred young lord screamed as his body was quickly corroded by the blood. He was absorbed into the blood and absorbed into Su Fong's body. The mercenaries and cultivators around the arch door were all shocked. They looked at Su Fong as if he was an evil monster. This evil cultivator is so arrogant. He didn't care about the supreme sacred forefather at all and killed the supreme sacred young lord in the supreme sacred sect's territory. The supreme sacred forefather has been famous for many years. No matter how strong this evil cultivator is, how can he be a match for him? Chapter 1691. Good, very good indeed. The supreme holy ancestor's nascent spirit's shadow settled down for a moment before a cold, lifelike smile appeared on his face. This fellow Taoist isn't domineering at all. When I come out of seclusion, I'll definitely pay you a visit. I'll stay in the supreme holy immortal realm for 3 days. I won't be late, Su Fong said nonchalantly. His casual voice carried a sense of arrogance that looked down on experts. High-level Tao realm experts were considered peerless figures in the great world, but they were nothing in Su Fong's eyes. With Su Fong's current strength, it would be easy for him to destroy the supreme holy sect. This fellow Taoist isn't domineering or arrogant at all. But don't forget that even a mighty dragon can't suppress a local snake. The supreme holy ancestor's nascent spirit snorted before vanishing. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Eyes filled with shock, and awe all fell on Su Fong. Who was the supreme holy ancestor? He was a peerless figure who had dominated the chaotic sky great world for tens of millions of years. But he didn't dare to do anything when this golden-masked cultivator killed his grandson in front of him. The so-called visit, after coming out of seclusion, was obviously because he was afraid of this golden-masked cultivator and was looking for a way out. Everyone was guessing who this golden-masked cultivator was and how terrifyingly powerful he was. Su Fong took the elder from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect into the true dragon realm and handed him over to the Vermilion Emperor. He walked to Qi Yanzi and sent a message with his nascent spirit. "Senior brother Qi Yanzi, I'm Su Fong. How are you doing?" Qi Yanzi suddenly raised his head and looked at Su Fong, his eyes revealing a look of disbelief. 9 True, 9 Sons, 1701 chapter. Open your mouth. Su Fong flicked a king-grade Yin Yang Immortal Sky pill, which Qi Yanzi swallowed. A few breaths later, Qi Yanzi's body, which was on the brink of death, suddenly burned with vitality. Although it was not very boundless, Qi Yanzi was no longer on the brink of death like before. Su Fong then urged the purple Qi Dharma spirit to release a mysterious purple Qi, which rolled around the nail-like Tao artifact that shackled Qi Yinzi's hands and feet. Buzz under the supreme control of the purple Qi Dharma spirit. The 4 iron nails trembled. In the end, it was forcefully peeled off from the arch door and sucked into Su Fong's body by the purple Qi. Qi Yinzi's body fell from above and was caught by Su Fong. Then, he sent him to the true dragon realm and gave him a large number of pills to help him recover. This time, Qi Yinzi's origin Qi was greatly damaged. Without 100,000 years of cultivation, it would be very difficult for him to recover to his peak state. Fortunately, Su Fong had the yin-yang immortal sky pellet. This time would be greatly shortened. Su Fong glanced at the wanted list, and a mocking smile appeared under his mask. Then, he entered the arched door and arrived at the supreme Saint immortal realm. Su Fong's actions once again caused an uproar among the cultivators. After killing the supreme Saint young master and a powerhouse of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, not only did he not run away, he entered the supreme Saint immortal realm without a care in the world. This was the height of arrogance. The mercenaries with Sang Shui were all terrified. Whether it was this golden mask cultivator or the supreme Saint sect, they were not people they could provoke. They hurriedly left the supreme Saint immortal realm. Royal city of the supreme Saint immortal realm. Unlike the immortal cities of the great worlds that Su Fong had seen before, the royal city of the supreme holy immortal world was filled with countless floating objects. It looked like a messy piece of clothing that had been pieced together. There were all kinds of strange buildings on the floating objects, as well as a few forests and rivers. A huge mountain peak floated at the highest point. It looked like it had been cut in half by a god, leaving only the top half. Immortal mist curled around the mountain peak. Tall pavilions and palaces poked out from mist. This was where the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm's power was concentrated. The Supreme Saint Forefather lived there as well. Streams of people shuttled back and forth in the city. Each of the cultivators here exuded a fierce and bloody aura. It was obvious that they often ventured into dangerous places. As soon as he entered the city, Su Fong sensed a nascent spirit's consciousness locking onto him, followed by a few cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect. Su Fong smiled sheepishly and ignored them. If the Supreme Saint sect refused to give up, they would only be humiliating themselves. Su Fong headed straight for the Grand Star Hall. There was a treasure here. On the way, Su Fong secretly communicated with his second nascent spirit. Second nascent spirit, what did you find in the memories of that powerhouse from the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect? Even you're so surprised. From the memories of that powerhouse from the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect, I learned that he didn't come to the chaotic sky great world just for you, but for a newly born sacred land. I've known about this sacred land since I was in the small world. It has something to do with an old friend of mine. A sacred land that everyone in the small world knows about? You mean Cloud Heaven's sacred ground, Huang Ling Yao? Su Fong was stunned. Soon after, his heart was in turmoil. Cloud Heaven sacred ground. It was built by the original owner of the Cloud Heaven Thundersword, Mother Yun. It was not too long ago, which was millions of years ago. For some reason, the Cloud Heaven sacred ground had suddenly disappeared from the great world. Mother Yun's whereabouts were also unknown. The Cloud Heaven Thundersword, one of the famous 10 great Tao artifacts, had also fallen into the small world and been fused with by Huang Ling Yao. Some people guessed that the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect hated the Cloud Heaven sacred ground for its sudden rise in power and was annihilated by the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Mother Yun was killed, and the Cloud Heaven sacred ground was destroyed by the peerless experts of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. There were also rumors that Mother Yun had ascended to the divine world and brought the Cloud Heaven sacred ground with her. She had intentionally left the Cloud Heaven Thundersword in the small world to find a new successor. Unexpectedly, the Cloud Heaven sacred ground's appearance in the chaotic sky great world attracted the attention of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. Su Fong guessed that the sudden appearance of so many cultivators in the supreme sacred sect was most likely for the cloud heaven's sacred ground. Su Fong immediately sent a young immortal to ask Song Shui. The results confirmed Su Fong's speculation. About 100 years ago, the cloud heaven's sacred ground's sudden appearance had spread throughout the chaotic sky great world in the celestial realm. At that moment, powerhouses from all directions were rushing to the chaotic sky great world. Even the demon race had sent powerhouses. However, due to the short time, no true peerless powerhouses had appeared yet. Su Fong obtained the spatial coordinates of the cloud heaven sacred ground from the memories of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsong Sek's elder. The cloud heaven sacred ground's appearance was not far from the supreme sacred celestial realm. It was located in a desolate void. However, the cloud heaven sacred ground was currently surrounded by a mysterious and strange sea of clouds. Even immortal supremacies would lose their sense of direction when they entered. Many of them did not even return. Huang Lingyao, the appearance of the cloud heaven sacred ground, must be related to Huang Lingyao. When the cloud heaven sacred ground suddenly appeared, Su Fong's first thought was Huang Lingyao. Huang Lingyao and Long Xiaojun had followed heavenly mandate Hao Tsong sect to the heavenly mandate Hao Tsong sect. In the end, the two of them disappeared at the same time in a dangerous training ground organized by the sect. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsong sect determined that the two of them had died in the dangerous place. However, Su Fong was certain that Huang Lingyao would not die so easily. This woman was able to fuse with the cloud heaven thundersword. She was also someone with supreme providence. Moreover, she was quick-witted and vicious. How could she die so easily? It was even more suspicious that she had disappeared at the same time as Long Xiaojun. Huang Lingyao had fused with the cloud heaven thundersword. Using the Tao artifact's ability to sense the cloud heaven sacred ground, it was not difficult for her to find and control the cloud heaven sacred ground. A woman like Huang Lingyao will stir up trouble no matter where she goes. In the past, I needed to look up to her, but now, she's not even worth mentioning. Sooner or later, I'll meet her again. At that time, I'll directly kill her and completely resolve the grudge between us. As for the sky's sacred ground, I'm not interested. Su Fong now had countless treasures in his hands, including the dual swords of destruction, the immortal slaying bow, one of the 10 great Tao artifacts, the underworld reincarnation sword, the Xianming thunder scroll, and the great Xian Xiaomingyu. Where does Zai live? Which ding? Prostitute, crowbar, oyster, and soul? Do you want to sit on a stool and wear a polyester coat? Li Di and Ji Shixian, Li Aoa's Su Fong's strength continued to increase. He rarely relied on Tao artifacts when fighting against strong enemies. He even directly gave peerless Tao artifacts like the twin swords of annihilation to Dugamujian. No matter how extraordinary Huang Lingyao's sky thundersword was, why would Su Fong care about it? As for the sky's sacred ground, no matter how powerful it was only an inheritance belonging to a great world expert. Su Fong was even less interested in it. At this moment, Law spoke from deep within his body. Even a peerless Tao artifact like the sky thunder sword and the inheritance of the sky's sacred ground can't interest you. Then, can Huang Lingyao interest you? Back then, she seduced you, and you took advantage of her. Why don't you take her in? Su Fong replied earnestly, Law, although you're my senior, I still have to warn you. You're transforming into a shameless person. If you don't hurry up and stop before it's too late, you, the Azura King, will become the king of shamelessness. Ahem, it's a waste of youth if you're not a romantic. When you become an old monster who is cultivated for countless years, it'll be too late for regrets. Su Fong no longer bothered with Law and asked, Law, are you ready to devour the heart blood of the flame Qilin beast and break through the shackles of the crimson cage? I'm almost there, but I can't be disturbed when I break through the crimson cage. You have to find a deserted place with abundant spirit qi. That's easy. Once I purchase the materials to refine the yin-yang immortal sky pill, I'll help you find a spirit land. Unknowingly, they arrived at the Great Star Hall. Just like the great star halls of the great world, The great star hall of the supreme sacred celestial world was magnificent and exuded an unparalleled aura of wealth, forming a strong contrast with the environment of the royal city of the supreme sacred celestial world. Su Fong stepped into the great star hall. Chapter 1692. Su Fong's clothes looked ordinary, and he wore a golden mask. He didn't look particularly outstanding, and his cultivation was only at the 9th Dao, Saint Immortal Realm, which was very common in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. However, Su Fong was the overlord of the galaxy in a lesser world, and the master of an immortal realm in a greater world. He'd also killed countless demon powerhouses during the Great War, and his every move exuded a domineering aura. The Grand Star Hall's business spanned the greater world, so the woman's eyes were naturally sharp. She could tell at a glance that Su Fong was no ordinary person. Right at this moment, the voice of a nascent soul transmitted to the woman. It was the head of the Grand Star Hall branch in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. The Supreme Saint Forefather contacted me personally. This person has just killed the Supreme Saint Young Master and a Tao Realm powerhouse of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. He should leave, lest we offend the Supreme Saint Forefather for no reason. Such a young cultivator killed the Supreme Saint's Young Master. He even killed a Tao Realm powerhouse of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. The woman gasped, and her expression changed. The Grand Star Hall was a merchant guild, after all. They did business for profit. The Supreme Saint Forefather was a supreme existence in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. If they offended him, the Grand Star Hall's business in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm would be in jeopardy. Although the Grand Star Hall was powerful, they wouldn't offend the Supreme Saint Forefather for no reason. Moreover, the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect was involved. The head of the Grand Star Hall branch in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm received the Supreme Saint Forefather's message and immediately decided to turn Su Fong away, lest he draw trouble to himself. 9 Truths and 9 Sons, Chapter 1711. The woman immediately put on a cold expression and blocked Su Fong's way. My apologies, guest, but the Grand Star Hall does not welcome you. Please leave. Whoosh. There were many cultivators in the hall who had come to the Grand Star Hall for business. The commotion immediately attracted everyone's attention. Su Fong raised an eyebrow. What? Does the Grand Star Hall have a reason to turn away a guest? If it were any other guest, the Grand Star Hall would naturally welcome you with open arms, but you've just killed people from the Supreme Saint sect and the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. We wouldn't dare do business with you. Hiss. Gasps could be heard coming from the hall. Everyone looked at Su Fong with fear in their eyes. It was as if they had seen a scourge, and they subconsciously retreated into the distance. The Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect was the greatest faction of the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. The Supreme Saint Forefather. How daring he dared to kill people from those 2 sects in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. Some of the cultivators here were from the Supreme Saint sect. When they heard the woman's words, they didn't expect that the 2 cultivators Su Fong had killed were the Supreme Saint sect's young master and a mid-level Tao Realm expert. They thought that they were just ordinary cultivators and immediately surrounded Su Fong. My lords, this is the Grand Star Hall. Please don't fight here. The woman said apologetically to the cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect. We'll let you live a little longer for the sake of the Grand Star Hall. The cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect sneered at Su Fong, as if they were certain that Su Fong would be dead. The woman knew that they'd misunderstood and didn't want to cause trouble. She didn't remind them and said to Su Fong, Guest, please do as you please. Su Fong smiled faintly and took out a purple gold token. He threw it to the woman. Let your hall master see this. He should know if he wants to do business with me. The VIP waste token of the Grand Star Hall. The woman was startled and looked at the purple gold token over and over again. The shape, style, immortal pattern, and aura of the token indicated that it was indeed a token that only the VIPs of the Grand Star Hall could have. With this token, one could enjoy a lot of special treatment. However, the VIP waste tokens of the Grand Star Hall were usually golden. The woman had never seen a purple gold VIP waste token before. You want to swindle people in the Grand Star Hall with a fake token? Men, please send this guest out. The woman's face darkened, and she immediately ordered the experts in the hall to chase Su Fong out. Su Fong touched the tip of his nose and shook his head with a wry smile. The VIP waste token of the Grand Star Hall was set up as a memorial to the cultivators who died in the battle at the Yunming Heavens. After that, Grand Star Ancestor had personally given it to Su Fong. Of course, it couldn't be fake. The VIP waste token that Patriarch Hongxing had personally given out was of the highest level in Hongxing Hall. Naturally, a person of the woman's status would not be able to come into contact with such a high-level VIP waste token. It seems that the higher the grade of the item, the more useful it is. As Su Fong shook his head, he channeled a strand of magic power into the waste token and activated it. Boom! A majestic aura was released from the token and turned into the figure of an old man. The terrifying aura of a demigod expert suddenly burst out. Everyone in the hall couldn't bear the terrifying pressure and trembled. The woman and the other cultivators of the supreme sacred sect who were closest to Su Fong couldn't bear the aura of a demigod expert and knelt on the ground involuntarily. This is Grand Star Ancestor. The woman naturally didn't have the opportunity to meet Grand Star Ancestor. However, she had seen a portrait of Grand Star Ancestor. Coupled with the terrifying aura released by the figure, it couldn't be anyone else other than Grand Star Ancestor. Ask your hall master to come and see me, Su Fong said majestically and put away the token. Grand Star Ancestor's aura instantly disappeared. A middle-aged man in a brocade robe rushed down from upstairs. He was the hall master of the Grand Star Hall in the supreme sacred celestial realm. The man cupped his fists at Su Fong in fear. I was blind to not recognize the VIP of the Grand Star Hall. Please forgive me. VIP. The woman in the court dress suddenly thought of something, and her face suddenly turned pale. Su Fong said coldly, I have something for the Grand Star Hall to do. Let's talk upstairs. Yes, sir. The man in the brocade robe quickly led Su Fong upstairs. The hall master of the Grand Star Hall was a top figure in the supreme sacred celestial realm. Everyone found it hard to believe that he was acting like a slave. One of the supreme sacred sect's cultivators asked the woman in the palace robe, Who is this person? What kind of Tao artifact is that token? It can release such a terrifying aura and make the hall master so respectful. The woman's eyes flashed with lingering fear. She said in a trembling voice, Although I don't know who this person is, the VIP token in his hand is the VIP token of the Grand Star Hall. I once heard the hall master say that this token is personally given by Grand Star Ancestor. There are only 3 of them in the entire great world. The cultivator from the supreme sacred sect staggered, and a layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. Another expert of the supreme sacred sect asked, The cultivators of the supreme sacred sect and the heavenly mandate bright sect that he killed must not be ordinary, right? The cultivator of the supreme sacred sect that he killed was the supreme sacred young master. The cultivator of the heavenly mandate bright sect was a mid-level Tao realm expert. As soon as the woman in the palace robe finished speaking, the experts of the supreme sacred sect were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Their legs turned to jelly and they trembled as they walked out of the Grand Star Hall. They were so scared that they couldn't even fly. The hall master of the Grand Star Hall respectfully led Su Fong to his secret room on the 2nd floor. Su Fong released Wang Yuzhen from the Jinlong world. You're finally willing to let me out. I thought you wouldn't let me ride on your coattails anymore. Wang Yuzhen was still as shrewish as before. As soon as she came out, she gave Su Fong a resentful look. Ever since Su Fong left the square heaven world, Wang Yuzhen, a business genius, had no place to use her talents. She couldn't help but complain about Su Fong. Su Fong also had a headache about this former senior sister. He immediately sent her to the Grand Star Hall to do the transaction while he sat cross-legged in the secret room. Seeing Wang Yuzhen, Su Fong suddenly thought of Qi Yinzi. He immediately separated himself from a young immortal and went to Qi Yinzi, who was recuperating in the Jinlong world. Qi Yinzi had swallowed a lot of yin-yang immortal sky pills and recovered a little of his life force. He was finally pulled back from the brink of death. However, he was still seriously injured and was far from fully recovering. Su Fong. Qi Yinzi struggled to stand up. Su Fong released a divine aura that made it difficult for Qi Yinzi to move. He said, "Senior brother Qi Yinzi, don't be so polite. We used to be in the same sect and can be considered friends." Qi Yinzi showed a grateful and ashamed expression. If he counted carefully, this was the fourth time he was saved by Su Fong. However, he didn't repay Su Fong in any way. This made him feel very guilty. Whoosh! Su Fong struck out a xianguang from his palm. Suppressed by the dragon Qi, Hui Qi coiled in the xianguang. This ancient, mutated divine beast trembled under Su Fong's divine dragon aura like an obedient little snake. After Hui Qi was taken away by the supreme Saint Young Master, it was forcefully sealed and barely controlled. However, its true master was still Qi Yinzi. Su Fong had already erased the seal after taking Hui Qi back from the supreme Saint Young Master. When Hui Qi saw Qi Yinzi, it immediately roared like a dragon and struggled to fly to Qi Yinzi's side. Su Fong put away the dragon Qi shackles, and Hui Qi flew to Qi Yinzi's side. After circling around for a few times, Hui Qi suddenly disappeared into his body. After obtaining Hui Qi's energy, Qi Yinzi's spirit immediately became hale and hearty. It was almost impossible for a mutated divine beast like Hui Qi to recognize a master. However, Qi Yinzi was able to tame Hui Qi, which showed that his luck was extraordinary. Qi Yinzi cupped his fists and said solemnly, "Su Fong, I can't thank you enough. From now on, my life is yours." Su Fong said unhappily, "Brother Qi, if you keep saying that, it means you don't treat me, Su Fong, as a friend. How can I be worthy of that?" What was Su Fong's current strength and status? He was a peerless figure who fought against the Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang's sect alone. He was definitely a peak existence in the outside world. Chapter 1693. Recommended reading. Chapter 1070. Obtaining the Flame Scale Beast's Heartblood. Su Fong. Shaozun. 9 True 9 Yang. Chapter 170. It really is Shaozun. Shaozun has come to save us personally. Greetings, Shaozun. Everyone reacted and knelt on the ground. They were so excited that they almost thought they were dreaming. Duan Xiuxiu's eyes flashed with excitement and a burning light. She stared at Su Fong with eyes full of worship. Su Fong unleashed a burst of divine might and lifted everyone up. Looking at the women, Su Fong said, "You've fallen into this situation because of me. Since I've encountered you, I naturally won't sit by and do nothing. If you're willing to come with me, I'll take you away from the Destiny Haotsong sect." The 100 women were overjoyed. How could they not agree to be able to escape the clutches of the demons and escape the miserable fate of becoming embryos? At this moment, Law sent a message to Su Fong through the blood jade in his body. "Su Fong, are you planning to expand your harem while Xuanxin isn't by your side?" "That's right. You should have done this long ago. Wang Yuzhen, Huang Fu Fei, Lan Haicheng. Don't leave out a single one. Take them all into your harem. That's how you'll look like the overlord of the great world." Cough, cough. Su Fong was careless and almost choked by Law's words. Ignoring the frivolous Law, Su Fong then said to the leaders of the 12 families, "If you're willing, I can also take away all the members of the 12 families of the silent great planet. But you can't leak any information or your entire family will be implicated." Due to the relationship between the silent great planet and the silent great immortal sovereign and Su Fong, the 12 families of the silent great planet have been very miserable these years. They have been oppressed and humiliated by the middle-aged cultivator acting as the sovereign. This time, they were even forced to hand over their most outstanding women to serve the demons. It wouldn't be long before that scholarly middle-aged cultivator completely took control of the silent great dojo. The 12 families would be swallowed up sooner or later. However, with the power of the Destiny Haotsong sect, no matter how big the great world was, there was no place for them. At this moment, Su Fong wanted to take them away from Silent Great Star and escape the sea of bitterness. How could they not be willing? The patriarchs of the 12 clans agreed one after another, deeply grateful to Su Fong. Jiu Zhan, Jiu Yang, Chapter 170. Su Fong made some arrangements and asked the 12 families to go back and prepare. Then, he handed the true dragon world to a blood clone and left it on the silent great star. At the same time, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and the other powerful big goblin, as well as a dozen celestial prime experts under their command, stayed on the silent great star to assist the 12 families in secretly migrating to the true dragon world. Su Fong was about to enter his second primordial spirit to control Grand Elder Zhongxuan's body when Zi Fan suddenly asked, "Xiao Zun, is the sovereign doing well?" When he thought of his master's current situation, Su Fong's expression dimmed, and he placed Zi Satin into the time immortal abode. She was an old friend of the exalted immortal Ji Hong, so Su Fong naturally had to take special care of her. After Great Elder Zhongxun absorbed Su Fong into his body, he once again returned to the Devil Clan's miracle to entertain the Devil Clan. Just as he was about to enter the divine ruin, buzz, 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 he sensed hundreds of cultivators flying toward the miracle with his perfected ability. A dozen of them were Devil Clan cultivators from the Devil World. 2 Devil Clan cultivators were surrounded by the crowd like stars surrounding the moon. One of them was a tall and muscular young Devil Clan cultivator. He had the strength of a mid-stage Dao Realm cultivator. He wore a dark golden robe and had an arrogant air about him. Su Fong sensed an aura from this Devil Clan cultivator that came from the same source as the Devil World's young lord, Qi Ming. From this, he deduced that this young Devil Clan cultivator should be the Devil World's lord's son. The other Devil Clan cultivator in the center of the crowd was the Devil Clan's holy son, Ming Yin. What shocked Su Fong was that Ming Yin gave him a completely different feeling than before. There seemed to be an incomparably powerful existence hidden in his body, causing his aura to become extremely violent and evil. The current Ming Yin gave Su Fong the feeling that he was even more terrifying than the Devil World's lord. The Demon Clan has countless evil techniques, and Ming Yin is from the Demon Clan. I have to be careful when I meet him this time. Su Fong secretly raised his guard. His second primordial spirit controlled Grand Elder Zhongxuan's body and entered the miracle, heading straight for the storehouse at the back. Due to the arrival of the Devil Race's diplomatic mission, all the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators in the miracle had gone to the palace at the front. Apart from a Grand Elder standing guard, there were no other cultivators in the storehouse. Grand Elder Zhongxun, why are you here? One of the great elders guarding the storehouse was surprised to see Grand Elder Changsun appear again. What, I can't come? Grand Elder Zhongxun asked imposingly. The Grand Elder hurriedly said, I wouldn't dare. Great Elder Zhongxun walked into the storehouse. His eyes swept across the interior of the storehouse, and he said indifferently, the Devil Race's diplomatic mission has arrived. The banquet will begin soon. Great Elder ordered this seat to come and check the situation. Call everyone here. This seat has something to say. Yes. Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect had a strict hierarchy. How could the Grand Elder dare disobey an order? The hundreds of cultivators guarding the storehouse, as well as the alchemists, chefs, and servants, were all summoned. Su Fong activated his great perfection ability in Grand Elder Zhongxuan's body. After sensing for a while, he found that there was no one else in the storehouse. Only then did he send a message to his second primordial spirit. You can act now. Grand Elder Zhongxun and Ming Yin of Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect are in the palace at the front. This time, we must strike without any disturbance. His second primordial spirit replied coldly. Only this high-level Dao Realm Grand Elder will be a little troublesome. The others are nothing to fear. I'll first use the power of the world of Yin and Yang to cover the storehouse. You use your primordial spirit's power to suppress this Grand Elder. This person is quite strong. It'll be best if you can make him a slave. After Su Fong finished his plan, he immediately absorbed most of his power into the world tree. Boom! A surge of power from the world of Yin and Yang exploded from the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, engulfing his physical body and forming a powerful world aura that radiated out. It passed through the Grand Elder's body and covered the entire storehouse. With Su Fang's current strength, he could even suppress a peak high-level Dao realm cultivator by turning all of his true chi and energy into a world aura. Although he hadn't used all of his power, suppressing a high-level Dao realm Grand Elder and hundreds of ordinary cultivators was a piece of cake. Grand Elder Zhang's son, what is the meaning of this? The Grand Elder was shocked and looked at Grand Elder Zhang's son in disbelief. His body was shackled by the world of yin and yang and had completely lost his connection with the world. He couldn't move at all, nor could he use any abilities. His reaction wasn't slow. He immediately tried to send a message with his primordial spirit. Qi. A black Xian Guang shot out from between Grand Elder Zhangsuan's eyebrows. With a bang, the black light hit the Great Elder's glabella. The void shook, and the light drilled into his divine aperture ocean. The incomparably vast primordial spirit impact immediately shook his yang immortal to the point where he could no longer transmit his primordial spirit voice. At the same time, Qi, Qi, Qi. Su Fang controlled the world of yin and yang and immediately sent out a torrent of water from the space covered by the world of yin and yang. Everyone was sucked into his body and sent into the sky-shrouding nether coffin. Undead King, I'll leave them all to you. If they don't want to submit, just devour them. Su Fang separated a yang immortal and entered the sky-shrouding nether coffin. He looked at the struggling heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect cultivators, and said to the undead king in a voice full of killing intent, Su Fang, you're Su Fang. You actually infiltrated heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect. The second essence spirit stopped attacking the Grand Elder's essence spirit and flew out of his divine aperture ocean. This person had just escaped the danger of his yang immortal being destroyed. Now that he recognized Su Fang, he fell into great shock again. The others also stopped struggling, since they fell into Su Fang's hands. What was the point of continuing to struggle? It's best if you don't submit so that I can enjoy a good meal, Kiki. The Death Lord chuckled evilly and channeled the power of his Dao treasure to shackle the cultivators of the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang. The Grand Elder was very strong and sneered in disdain. Su Fang, I have nothing to say now that I'm in your hands. It won't be long before heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect suppresses you and submits to you. It's also a dead end. Since I'm going to die anyway, why should I submit to you? I advise you to give up. I'm the Grand Elder of heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. Why would I submit to a traitor like you? You're just a high-level Dao realm cultivator. I don't lack such subordinates. Undead King. Su Fang's young immortal said coldly. Qi, Qi. Thank you for your help, Master. The Undead King smiled evilly and used a monstrous death aura to envelop the Grand Elder of heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. In less than 10 breaths, the man's life essence was completely devoured. The Undead King's aura became even more vast. He licked his lips and smiled evilly, looking at the remaining heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators as if he had not had enough. I submit. Don't kill me, I'll submit. More than 100 heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators spoke one after another. Su Fang did not care much about these cultivators. He only gave them a way out because it was not easy for them to cultivate. The Pill Master was very extraordinary. He was a Pill Master of heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, and his pill refining skills were considered top-notch in the entire great world. What are you waiting for? The heart blood of the flame scale beast. Su Fang sensed the flame scale beast's aura on the Pill Master and immediately shouted coldly. The Pill Master hurriedly took out a medicinal cauldron from his body and handed it to Su Fang with both hands. There were a total of 3 drops of burning blood flame the size of a baby's fist, and they were suspended in the cauldron. As expected of the flame scale beast with the bloodline of the divine beast Qilin. No one knew how many years this beast had been killed, but the 3 drops of heart blood still exuded an extremely shocking life aura. They also contained powerful and extremely violent thoughts. Su Fang's young immortal released a furious roar in his mind as soon as his gaze touched the blood flame. almost shattering the young immortal. Chapter 1694. Qi Yinzi couldn't help but sigh at the sight of Su Feng's domineering aura. When he'd first met Su Feng had just ascended from a small world. He was weak and lowly. Only a few thousand years had passed since then. But now, Su Feng had grown to the point where he could look down on the strongest faction in the world of immortals. Qi Yinzi had always been proud of his talent and cultivation speed, but he'd lost the right to be proud in front of Su Feng. Compared to such a heaven-defying genius, I'm just asking for trouble. I'm lucky to be his friend. If I were his enemy. Qi Yinzi sighed in relief after a moment of helplessness. Looking at Yu Miaomei lying in Su Feng's arms, Qi Yinzi asked, "Is this Brother Su's little Dao companion?" Brother Su's tastes are quite broad. Not only does he like a cool beauty like Xuanxin, but he also likes young girls like her. Su Feng's face darkened. "She's my little sister." Little sister? Dao companions calling each other brother and sister can indeed improve their relationship. Qi Yinzi chuckled, his expression saying, "You know what I mean?" Law burst into laughter from the blood jade deep inside Su Feng's body. "Brother Qi, take your time recovering. I won't disturb you any longer." Su Feng's forehead beaded with sweat as he hurriedly withdrew his young immortal. While Su Feng was conversing with Qi Yinzi in the True Dragon Realm, the Supreme Holy Forefather had just received a piece of news in a palace at the peak of the half-broken mountain where the Supreme Holy Sect was located. That golden-masked cultivator has the Grand Star Hall's Supreme VIP waste token. The Supreme Holy Forefather's heart trembled. What kind of person could have a Grand Star Hall Supreme VIP waste token? He was a high-level Dao Realm expert who could dominate the entire chaotic sky macro world. However, he was nothing in front of such a character. Chapter 1713. 9 Truths and 9 Sons. At that moment, the power of will suddenly descended into the palace. With a flash of profound light, it turned into the image of an old man in silver robes. He had the will of the heavens and a supreme aura that was above the heavens and the earth. "Supreme Holy Forefather," the elder exclaimed. "Senior, you are." The Supreme Holy Forefather couldn't help but tremble. It was only a projection, but it was enough to make him feel as if he was facing the heavens. Such a person must be at the top of the world. The silver-robed elder introduced himself. "I'm the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect." "Master," the Holy Forefather said, "you the Supreme Holy Forefather?" "The Supreme Holy Forefather you is." "I heard that one of our sect's elders was killed in your extreme saint sect." "That indeed." The Supreme Holy Forefather was at S translation. The Heavenly Fate Bright Sect's mid-level Dao Realm expert killed by the Golden Mask Cultivator was at least an elder in the sect. However, the death of an elder wasn't enough to alarm a supreme being like the Grand Elder. The Supreme Holy Forefather created an image with his mind and reenacted the scene. "It really is him." The shadow of the Supreme First Elder snorted. "May I ask who this person is, Grand Elder?" The Supreme Holy Forefather asked cautiously. "A friend of Su Feng's and a wanted criminal of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect," the Grand Elder answered vaguely. "Where is this person now?" "This person is so arrogant that he dared to stay in the Supreme Holy Immortal World after killing someone. He's currently in the Grand Star Hall. I'll give you a chance, Supreme Holy Forefather. If you kill this person, I'll bestow upon you the position of Grand Elder of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect and allow you to guard the chaotic sky great world for eternity. I'll also help you reach the peak of high-level Dao Realm." The Grand Elder's words both surprised and delighted the Supreme Holy Forefather. But then he remembered how powerful the Golden Masked Cultivator was. Killing a mid-level Dao Realm expert was as easy as killing a chicken. An advanced Dao Realm expert like him was clearly no match for the Golden Mask Cultivator. No matter how great the reward was, he needed to be alive to enjoy it. "I won't let you die for no reason. I'll send the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect's peerless experts to the chaotic sky great world to help you. With the appearance of a sky sacred ground, experts from all over will gather in the chaotic sky great world. You can invite them as many as you want, and the heavenly fate bright sect will offer enough to tempt them. No matter how strong the golden mass cultivator is, he'll be crushed to death by a pile of cultivators' lives. How dare I defy Grand Elder's orders? The Supreme Holy Forefather agreed without hesitation. In the distant heavenly fate bright sect, the Grand Elder stood with his hands clasped behind his back in the sky outside the boundary. With the help of the 81 dojos, the Grand Encirclement Formation allowed the Grand Elder's consciousness to sense most corners of the Great World. He could also project his will into the Great World, but it also consumed a great deal of his energy. He couldn't use this ability for long. Su Fong, I'll use the lives of countless cultivators to break your Tao heart this time. Then I'll ask for the sect's final trump card. If I still can't kill you, then the heavenly fate bright sect will be destroyed, the Grand Elder muttered to himself with a murderous aura. Royal City of the Supreme, Holy Immortal World. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The efficiency of the Grand Star Hall was indeed unmatched. In addition, Su Fong had the highest level of VIP waste token. Everyone in the Grand Star Hall of the Supreme Holy Immortal World naturally did their best to prepare all the materials needed by Su Fong in just 3 days. Wang Yuzhen also fully displayed her talent in business. She traded the pills and Dharma treasures of the true dragon world with the Grand Star Hall. The Grand Star Hall even held an auction in the Immortal City for this. Among Su Fong's subordinates, there was the Dead King, who could forge King Grey Dao artifacts. Needless to say, there was also Old Monster Zhu Tian and the Alchemy Master recruited from the Heavenly Fate Bright sect. The pills refined by them were naturally extraordinary. The Dharma treasures and pills of the true dragon world, especially the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pill, attracted countless cultivators to bid for them. Wang Yuzhen, who was in charge of the auction, was also in the limelight, earning a lot of money for Su Fong. I'm de Ju Bing. In the past few days, the Supreme Holy Immortal World and even the entire chaotic sky great world were surging with undercurrents. Countless peerless experts came to the royal city of the Supreme Holy Immortal World. The Grand Star Hall was well informed. Naturally, these movements couldn't escape the Grand Star Hall's eyes and ears. After collecting and organizing the information, the Hall Master immediately reported it to Su Fong. When Su Fong received the news, he only smiled faintly and ignored it. After the auction, Su Fong also received the pill refining materials and prepared to leave the Supreme Holy Immortal World. Su Fong planned to find the Dharma treasure fragments that Qi Yinzi had hidden in the nameless wasteland. At the same time, he planned to find a spiritual land for Luo Chong to break out of the Crimson Cage. Both of these were important matters. Before he left, the Hall Master of the Grand Star Hall came to visit him. My lord, the Extreme Sky Saint Patriarch has placed a bounty in the chaotic sky great world. As soon as you leave the Grand Star Hall, they will attack you. Why don't you stay in the Grand Star Hall for the time being? Su Fong's eyes flashed with a smile. I wonder how much my head is worth now. The Supreme Holy Patriarch had previously promised that anyone who could injure Su Fong would exchange a drop of blood for a peak Supreme Grey Dao artifact. Such a bounty could be said to be sky-high and murderous. Now that the Hall Master had come to remind him again, the Supreme Holy Patriarch must have increased the bounty again. What else could the Supreme Holy Patriarch offer? Su Fong was very curious. The Hall Master said embarrassedly, the Supreme Holy Patriarch promised that anyone who can injure you, regardless of your injuries, will be able to obtain a spot to enter the sky sacred ground. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. A spot to enter the sky's sacred ground? The Supreme Holy Patriarch sure talks big. Is the sky's sacred ground his private property? The Supreme Holy Patriarch is only at the advanced Tao realm. Even if he has the ambition, he doesn't have the strength to take the sky's sacred ground for himself. It's the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect. The Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect has announced that the sky's sacred ground is their training ground. No one can go near it. Moreover, the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect will send experts to seal the entire sky sacred ground and open a passage to the sky's sacred ground through the dense fog. The heavenly fate bright firmament sect still doesn't know how to restrain themselves. They are still as domineering as ever. Su Fang's eyes were cold. Su Fang deduced that the heavenly fate bright firmament sect had already guessed his true identity. However, they had used the spot to enter the sky's sacred ground as bait and used the immortal Tao cultivators as cannon fodder. They clearly wanted to use these cannon fodder to exhaust Su Fang's strength while they waited for an opportunity to strike and kill Su Fang in one fell swoop. Today, I will kill anyone who stands in my way. Those who stand in my way will die, Su Fang said coldly. Then, he strode out of the secret chamber and walked out of the Great Star Hall. Su Fang walked out of the Great Star Hall's main hall. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless gazes from the streets and the buildings on both sides of the street looked towards Su Fang. These gazes were filled with fear and greed, as if Su Fang was a fat sheep. A drop of blood in exchange for a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. As long as they injured Su Fang, regardless of whether the injury was light or heavy, they would be able to obtain a spot to enter the sky's sacred ground. At this moment, Su Fang was a fat sheep in everyone's eyes. However, this fat sheep was a little difficult to deal with. Su Fang's perfected stage ability swept in all directions. He could clearly sense the surrounding cultivators and even the cultivators who were hiding in the void for the bounty. Among these cultivators, most of them carried the origin energy of the chaotic sky great world. However, there were also cultivators from other great worlds and immortal domains. There were also many immortal venerables. There were also some peerless existences who were at the peak of the advanced Tao realm hidden in the void. Although these cultivators had different cultivation bases, strength, and backgrounds, they had one thing in common: greed. If you treat me, Su Fang, as a fat sheep, then you should be prepared to die. Su Fang walked out of the Great Star Hall and came to the street. Then, he slowly flew up into the sky. Such a calm demeanor and lofty, domineering aura caused everyone to feel fear in their hearts. No one wanted to be the first to make a move. Chapter 1695. That's right. No matter how powerful this golden mass cultivator is, he's only one person. How can he fight against so many experts? This is the supreme sacred sect with the support of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. No matter where he comes from, he can't possibly defeat the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. I don't want to kill this golden-masked cultivator. I just want to injure him. A drop of blood can be exchanged for a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. Those who have the qualifications to enter the sky's sacred ground will have the chance to obtain Mother Yun's inheritance. What's a little risk for such a fortune? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Figures appeared from the ground, the air, and other floating objects. These cultivators were all murderous and greedy. They were like hungry wolves that bared their fangs and wanted to tear Su Fang, the lone fat sheep, into pieces. Today, if gods block me, I'll kill gods. If demons block me, I'll slaughter demons. Su Fang's voice was filled with killing intent. An old man stood in the sky above the supreme, sacred immortal world's king city with his hands behind his back. He had a hooked nose, a gloomy gaze, and an ethereal aura. He seemed to be one with the world as he stood there. None of the countless cultivators below noticed his presence. A young cultivator stood behind the hook-nosed old man. He was handsome and had an arrogant expression. His black Taoist robe had thunder Taoist patterns intertwined with dark golden Taoist patterns. If gods block me, I'll kill gods. If demons block me, I'll slaughter demons. I wonder where this frog at the bottom of the well came from. How arrogant. The young cultivator in the black Taoist robe curled his lips and sneered disdainfully. The hook-nosed old man said indifferently, "Master brought you out to train this time because our target is the sky's sacred ground. This golden mass cultivator can kill a mid-stage Tao realm cultivator of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. He's quite extraordinary. He's just right for your trial." The young cultivator said proudly, "I've killed more than 1 or 2 mid-stage Tao realm cultivators. This golden mass cultivator might be extraordinary, but if he wants to be my trial opponent, we'll have to see if he's qualified. There were many true, peerless experts in the sky above the city, and they brought their disciples and geniuses to the chaotic sky world. Their objective was none other than the sky holy ground. Of course, he wasn't here for the bounty offered by the supreme sacred sect and heaven's mandate bright firmament sect. He was here to bring his juniors to broaden their horizons. If necessary, he would naturally take action. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of cultivators rushed to within 1,000 feet of Su Fong, unleashing powerful divine abilities or activating their Tao artifacts, bombarding Su Fong from all directions. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. How sad. Su Fong shook his head helplessly. Soon after, a cold light flashed in his deep eyes. Chi! Chi! 10,000 flying swords rushed out from Su Fong's palm like flowing water, circling and whistling around him, setting off a majestic aura that could kill everything in the surroundings. In an instant, the sword will roared and the murderous aura filled the sky. Pu-pu-pu. 10,000 flying swords were activated at the same time. What a spectacular sight it was. Furthermore, these flying swords were not simply controlled by the flying swords. Instead, each flying sword was activated to the extreme. 10,000 flying swords formed a huge sword formation. How terrifying would the aura that burst out together be? As they circled and whistled, the long river formed by the flying swords was like a huge meat grinder. The hundreds of cultivators around Su Fong were instantly minced into meat paste and blood. Such a terrifying scene caused all the cultivators to be shocked. The cultivators who were fighting to be the first to charge at Su Fong suddenly stopped, not daring to get close to Su Fong. The supreme sacred ancestor shouted, "He's controlling so many flying swords at the same time. Although he's powerful, how long can he last? Attack from a distance with Tao artifacts and break his sword formation. We can kill him in one fell swoop." Instigated by the supreme sacred ancestor, the cultivators who had been intimidated by Su Fong suddenly came to a realization. They took out their Tao artifacts and unleashed earth-shattering attacks. Su Fong's river of swords shattered layer by layer and was gradually compressed. The cultivators' morale was greatly boosted, and their attacks became even more ferocious. The cultivators who had been watching on the sidelines also joined in the attack without hesitation. The cultivators were like dark clouds hanging over the border. Su Fong suddenly looked like he was in imminent danger. Once the sword formation is broken, it'll be your death. The supreme sacred ancestor smirked. Controlling flying swords is just a method I use to deal with these ants. Even so, my flying swords are not something a bunch of ants can break. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Flying swords flowed out of Su Fong's palm like worthless scrap metal. They formed a sea of flying swords around Su Fong. 100,000 flying swords. Su Fong activated his purple cloud Dharma spirit, and a mysterious purple cloud circled around him. A supreme divine aura of controlling magic treasures made the 100,000 flying swords seem like a part of his body. They swept out in all directions like a boundless sea. Pain screams and cries of despair rang out one after another. Countless cultivators were ground into meat paste, and a rain of blood fell from the sky. The entire royal city of the supreme, sacred immortal realm looked like a bloody hell. In a dozen breaths of time, there was not a single cultivator to be seen in the sky. They had either been killed by Su Fong or fled far away. Su Fong gathered the sea of swords to his side. Like a god of death, his swords were unstoppable wherever they went. Looking at the rain of blood in the sky, Su Fong smiled savagely. It's a shame to waste so much blood chi. Shattering the insides of his body into blood, Su Fong activated the devouring power of the Netherblood Sea and spread it outward. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Strands of blood chi were attracted and gathered into a vast sea of blood mist. Next, Su Fong utilized the ethereal True Scriptures Tao of illusion to condense his blood energy into walnut-sized blood beads. There were roughly 10,000 of them in total. Next, he collected them all into his body and gave them to his subordinate Great Yaos for cultivation. What an evil and cruel method. This scene caused the hearts of all the cultivators to be shocked once more, and they trembled as if they'd been doused head-on with a scoop of icy cold water, causing the greed in their hearts to be completely extinguished. I don't like killing, but that doesn't mean I won't kill. If you don't want to die, scram. Su Fang's thunderous roar contained the divine might of lightning punishment. It rolled out in all directions and shook the entire immortal realm. Then, Su Fang steered his 100,000 flying swords toward the half-peak where the supreme sacred sect power center was located. The cultivators attracted by the sky-high bounty were afraid of Su Fang's strength and ruthlessness, but true experts had seen all kinds of dangers. They naturally wouldn't be scared off by Su Fang's words. After all, Su Fang's strength wasn't invincible. They all watched from afar, waiting for the right moment to strike. No one stepped forward to stop Su Fang. Supreme Sacred Forefather, you've incited so many people to kill me. Why are you acting like a coward? Come out. Su Fang came to the top of the half-peak and looked down like a god of death. The Supreme Sacred Forefather's gloomy voice rang out from the peak. You evil cultivator, everyone should kill you. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant after killing so many people from the chaotic sky great world. I killed your grandson, so it's understandable that you want to kill me for revenge. However, you're willing to be the lackey of the heavens mandate Haotsong sect and incite so many cultivators to come to their deaths. You're unforgivable. From today on, the boundless sacred sect is no more in the chaotic sky great world. Su Fang's domineering voice caused an uproar. A coward who doesn't dare to show his true face dares to spout nonsense here about destroying the sect. A young cultivator in a black robe flew down from the sky. Another one who's willing to die for a bounty. Su Fang shook his head and sneered. This black-robed young cultivator had extraordinary strength at the early stage of the Dao realm. There was also a trace of thunder in his aura. It wasn't the violent and destructive thunder of nature or thunder, but an extremely rare type of Yin thunder. I don't care about mere bounty. You're not worthy of being my test subject. However, since you're so arrogant, I'll lower my status and kill you. The black-robed young cultivator said indifferently in a domineering manner. Su Fang looked at the peerless expert at the peak of the advanced stage of the Dao realm in the sky and said indifferently, Call your disciple back, lest you break your legacy. I'd like to see how you're going to break my legacy. The old man replied disdainfully. In that case, what a pity. Su Fang shook his head helplessly. Show me your full strength, or you won't have another chance to use it. The black-robed young cultivator shouted coldly. Then he formed a strange seal, and a mass of dense Yin-Chi that carried a terrifying aura of nirvanic annihilation burst out from between his palms, turning into a dark bolt of lightning, swiftly and violently pouncing towards Su Fang. Puffed, puffed, puffed. Wherever the black lightning went, the flying sword around Su Fang instantly lost their spirituality and fell to the ground like ordinary iron. The Yin thunder released by the black-robed young cultivator contained a strange divine power that could destroy all things. It caused the Dao palace of heaven and earth of the flying swords to collapse instantly, causing them to lose their spirituality. Boom! The Yin thunder bombarded Su Fang's body, shattering it. The black-robed cultivator smiled disdainfully. You can't even withstand a single blow. However, at the next moment, Su Fang's shattered body turned into a pool of blood that surged in all directions. In an instant, it turned into a surging sea of blood that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The Yin Thunder's power was quickly worn down and disintegrated under the yellow spring blood sea's terrifying devouring power. It couldn't cause much damage to Su Fang at all. The black-robed young cultivator was caught off guard and fell into the yellow spring blood sea. He was instantly shocked and released streaks of Yin thunder, causing the sea of blood to churn. However, he couldn't escape the yellow spring blood sea's terrifying reincarnation and devouring power. His defensive divine power shattered layer by layer, followed by his physical body being corroded. This is the yellow spring blood sea. Su Fang, you're Su Fang. Chapter 1696. Su Fang. The golden mask cultivator is Su Fang, the wanted criminal of the heavenly mandate luminous sect. The moment the aquiline-nosed old man's voice rang out, the entire immortal city was shaken. Every cultivator felt as if a huge earthquake had occurred in their hearts, and their minds were filled with thunderous booms. Su Fong, who didn't know this name, during the Heavenly Mandate Luminous Sect's Tao Disciple Competition, Su Fong rose to prominence and became the top genius of the greater world. He was as dazzling as the sun in the sky. During the great war between immortals and demons, he turned the tides and won the immortal Tao world a chance at survival. After the war, he erected a monument for the fallen immortals and raised his arm to rally the world, causing the Heavenly Mandate Luminous Sect to lose all face. Then he openly betrayed the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament Sect and became a wanted criminal in the entire great world. These were all well-known events. Almost no one knew what happened after that. Su Fong borrowed Shu Yunkong and Luo's strength to severely wound the sect head and kill the sect's upper echelons. Even the two demigods, the first supreme elder, the lord of the demon world, and the divine Sang Han, returned in defeat. The Heavenly Mandate Luminous Sect kept this matter under wraps, so the outside world had no way of knowing. The lord of the demon world naturally wouldn't publicize Su Fong's accomplishments either. Previously, Su Fong had infiltrated the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament Sect, killed Qi Shang, devoured the sect's fortune, and almost killed deity Sang Han. The Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament Sect had forcefully sealed this matter. If news of this spread, wouldn't the Heavenly Mandate Luminous Sect's wanted list become a joke? Killing Su Fong, who had the strength to severely injure a divine, in exchange for the sect's bounty? No idiot would do such a foolish thing. Though the immortal Tao world didn't know about this, it didn't affect Su Fong's reputation. Now that the hook-nosed old man had revealed Su Fong's identity, everyone was shocked to the core. The cultivators who'd been about to attack Su Fong were now trembling with fear and rejoicing at the same time. The Supreme Holy Forefather was completely dumbfounded. He was only at the high level of the Tao realm, which was considered a supreme existence in the chaotic sky macro world. But what was he to Su Fong? During the great war of immortals and demons, Su Fong had even killed a peak Tao realm expert. Wouldn't killing a Tao realm expert be as easy as slaughtering a chicken? Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect had the strength to put a bounty on Su Fong, but Extreme Sacred Sect didn't have the confidence to put a bounty on Su Fong's head. The Supreme Holy Ancestor felt as if he had kicked a plank. No, it was more like he had kicked a mountain. The cultivators of the Supreme Sacred Sect were all in a state of panic. The other party was the Su Fong. Wasn't destroying the Extreme Saint Sect a piece of cake? However, there were still some people who had strange thoughts after learning about Su Fong's identity. Those who dared to target Su Fong were naturally the peak Tao realm experts, and the peak Tao realm experts who'd been watching from the sky. These people were all here for the sky sacred ground. Whether they could obtain Mother Yun's inheritance was still unknown. If they worked together to kill Su Fong, they could obtain the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang Sect's bounty. After all, not everyone had witnessed Su Fong's performance on the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons. Moreover, the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect had deliberately publicized Su Fong's achievements in the great war of immortals and demons. As a result, many people thought Su Fong was just a peerless genius with heaven-defying luck. It was already heaven-defying for him to possess the strength of a peak Tao realm expert. All sorts of thoughts flashed through everyone's mind in a split second. "Master, save me." The black-robed young cultivator who was trapped in the yellow spring blood cried for help from the aquiline-nosed old man. His flesh-divine armor and immortal patterns were rapidly corroded by the blood water. His physical defense was shattered, and his body was about to be swallowed by the blood water. This black-robed young cultivator's talent was extraordinary, but he was just a flower in a greenhouse. He had never experienced wind and rain at all, and had long been scared out of his wits. After hearing Su Fong's identity, his willpower almost collapsed, and he no longer had a trace of his previous arrogance and haughtiness. The aquiline-nosed old man cupped his fists and said, Su Fong, my disciple was wrong first. I apologize to you here. Please let him go, okay? Whoosh. The blood water churned and condensed into Su Fong. Su Fong said indifferently, I specially reminded you to call him back before to prevent the inheritance from being broken. Don't you think it's a little too late for you to speak up now? The aquiline-nosed old man's eyes burned with anger. I've already lowered my head to you. What else do you want? Su Fong replied coldly. He wanted to kill me, but you didn't stop him. Instead, you intentionally allowed him to do so. Now that his life is in my hands, you're standing up and asking me to let him go with just a simple apology. Your reasoning is really domineering, but unfortunately, it won't work in front of Su Fong. Since you want to kill, then you must be prepared to be killed. Gue, I'll leave him to you. Whoosh, a black blood water suddenly rushed out from the yellow spring blood sea and quickly wrapped around the black-robed young cultivator's body. It was Gue in the yellow spring blood sea state. Gue's poison could even threaten peerless existences at the peak of the high-level Tao realm. Even demigod experts didn't dare to touch Gue's poison directly with their bodies. This black-robed young cultivator was only at the early stage of the Tao realm. Now that he was in the yellow spring blood sea, how could he defend against Gue's poison? Sizzle. In just 4 or 5 breaths, the black-robed young cultivator screamed in despair. His body was swallowed by the black blood water and disappeared without a trace. Su Fong, you killed my disciple. I'm absolutely irreconcilable with you. The aquiline-nosed old man thundered with rage. Irreconcilable with me. Are you sure? Su Fong smiled coldly in the blood water. With a flip of his right hand, the Xianming lightning archive appeared in his palm. A terrifying lightning-type divine aura surged into the sky and swept out in all directions. Xianming lightning archive. The aquiline-nosed old man came to an abrupt halt. He looked at the Xianming lightning archive with eyes full of fear and dread. Suddenly, an aura descended from the sky. The aura carried the supreme will of the heavenly Tao. It was as if the heavenly Tao had descended. The aura quickly condensed and transformed into the phantom of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sex first supreme elder, Su Fong. The first supreme elder looked down at Su Fong as if he was the embodiment of the heavens, overlooking all life on earth. You betrayed your sect and killed your fellow disciples. Now, you're using the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's evil methods to kill immortal cultivators. How are you any different from the evil and demonic Tao? The first supreme elder shouted coldly, full of righteousness. Then, an incomparably powerful will descended with a rumble, causing the Yellow Spring blood sea to ripple violently. Su Fong raised the corner of his mouth in the blood water and sneered. If you want to condemn someone, why worry about the pretext? If First Supreme Elder wants to suppress Su Fong, why don't you just do it? Instead, you're talking nonsense. This isn't the usual style of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Su Fong was most wary of Sang Han, the divine being who had been severely injured by Su Fong last time. It was one disaster after another, so it was impossible for him to make a move now. The first Supreme Elder and the Lord of the demonic world were also injured. Moreover, with Luo Xiang's help, Su Fong had the power to kill a demigod expert. They didn't dare to come here personally. The only thing the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect could rely on now was the powerful force that had led the immortal Tao, as well as the foundation that had been accumulated over countless years. Therefore, Su Fong really didn't fear the First Supreme Elder at all. Presumptuous! The First Supreme Elder snorted inexplicably. His empty eyes swept across the experts in the sky and the countless immortal cultivators in the monarch city below. I'm currently far away in the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and can't make it in a short time. Therefore, I invite everyone to kill Su Fong, this traitor of our sect. Even if you can't kill him, you must delay him for a while. Our sect will lead the experts and arrive soon. Then, the First Supreme Elder announced a generous reward. I promise that anyone who attacks Su Fong will receive 10,000 Supreme Grade Vastyong pills, 1,000 Divine Essence pills, and a Supreme Grade Peak Tao artifact. In addition, you will obtain the right to enter the sky sacred ground. If you can injure Su Fong, the rewards will be multiplied tenfold. You will also obtain our sect's supreme cultivation techniques and divine powers. If you can defeat him, you will enjoy the same status as the Grand Supreme Elder of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. You can choose any one of our sect's God-grade cultivation techniques and divine powers. Such a generous reward instantly made many cultivators envious. Their eyes shone brightly, and they no longer looked at Su Fong with fear. Instead, they looked at him with greed. In the next moment, the first Supreme Elder threatened coldly. If you ignore my orders and don't back down, I'll make the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect experts visit your sects and families one by one. Su Fong, you killed my beloved disciple. If I don't kill you, as soon as the first Supreme Elder finished speaking, the hook-nosed old man leaped into the air and charged towards Su Fong. He roared with hatred, but his eyes were filled with greed. It was clear that he was not simply seeking revenge for his disciple. His main goal was the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect's reward. At the same time, more than 10 high-level Tao Realm experts and 2 peak high-level Tao Realm experts who were watching in the air no longer hesitated and charged towards Su Fong. Attack Su Fong. Even if you can't injure him, you can still obtain the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect's reward. How powerful is the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect? If we don't attack Su Fong now, the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect will hold a grudge against us. The Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect will take revenge on our sects and cultivation clans. If we attack Su Fong, we'll be rewarded instead. It won't be difficult to make the right choice. Under the threat and reward of the first Supreme Elder, the cultivators in the Immortal City were eager to make a move. Brave men are bound to rise to the occasion of great rewards. As expected of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect's Grand Supreme Elder, so many cultivators are willing to risk their lives for him with just a few words. They've completely forgotten my great kindness to the immortal Tao world and their fear of death. Su Fong raised an eyebrow, and his eyes burned with fury. An indescribable resentment surged in his heart. Chapter 1697. With Su Fong's current strength and the Purple Cloud Dharma Spirit's ability to control magic treasures, he could unleash all of the Xianming Lightning Scroll's lightning-type divine power. Its power was even more terrifying than during the Great War of Immortals and Demons. 8. Read. Book. Oh, rumble. The space instantly turned into a world of lightning-type power. It was filled with a violent and destructive aura. The sky shook as if the heavenly Tao had sent down divine punishment. The powerful barrier of the supreme, holy, immortal world shattered layer by layer like paper. The desolate and chaotic power of the world seeped into the immortal world, causing the floating objects in the immortal city to become unstable. Some flew out of the immortal city into the air, while others collided with each other. The entire immortal city was in chaos. The Xianming Lightning Scroll's true ability was to attack in a large area. At this moment, more than a dozen powerhouses were suffering from the terrifying lightning-type power. The 3 peak Tao Realm experts, including the aquiline-nosed old man, were still able to defend against the terrifying power of the Xianming Lightning Scroll. As for the weaker Tao Realm experts, they were immediately severely injured by the lightning divine might, while the stronger ones had their auras and flesh armor shattered. The Xianming Lightning Scroll's power was terrifying. Second Primordial Spirit, Gui, Undead Lord, go. Su Fong released the immortal demon monster, Gui, and Undead Lord. However, he kept the Dragon Bird in his body. The Dragon Bird was a powerful trump card against the demon race and the resurrection of powerhouses. Su Fong would not use it easily. Brother, how can you leave me out of this? Hurry up and let me out. Bai Ling's dissatisfied voice came from the Cavern of Time. It's good to let sister Bai out to practice. Su Fong smiled and let Bai Ling out. Bai Ling had reached the peak of her breakthrough. Although she was not as strong as the immortal demon monster, it was easy for her to deal with the peak Tao realm powerhouses. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The immortal demon monster, an undead lord, attacked the talon-nosed old man and the other peak Tao realm powerhouses. Bai Ling activated the Chaos Ring. Gui Gui, in the form of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, pounced on the peak Tao realm powerhouses. Su Fong was naturally not worried about the strength of the immortal demons, Gui Gui, and the others, so he paid too much attention to the battle in the sky. He looked down at the supreme sacred sect and declared, "I will only kill the supreme sacred forefather. As for the other cultivators of the supreme sacred sect, I will spare your lives if you step out of the sect's defensive formation." The supreme holy forefather sneered, "You won't be able to protect yourself soon, and you'll be dead the moment the elites of the heavenly mandate sect arrive. How dare you be so arrogant? Even if a peak high-level Tao realm powerhouse were to attack our sect's protective array with all their strength, it would take them at least 10 days to half a month to break through it. What can you do to our naive holy sect? Su Fong, you should obediently flee for your life. You actually want to persuade us to surrender. What an idiot. An idiot like this can actually save the immortal Tao world. What peerless genius. Savior of the immortal Tao? That's all bullshit." On the upper half of the mountain, waves of unbridled mockery and abuse could be heard. In this short period of time, cultivators rushed out of the immortal city in a grandiose manner. Su Fong, so what if you saved the immortal Tao? Haven't you been betrayed by the cultivators you saved? The projection of the heavenly mandate sect's supreme elder transmitted his nascent spirit to Su Fong. He was extremely smug and arrogant. Look at these cultivators. They've forgotten everything in the face of great benefits. Not to mention you. They'll even abandon their parents, wives, and children without hesitation as long as there's enough benefits, let alone you. It doesn't feel good to be betrayed, does it? These are the cultivators you sacrifice your life to save. Will you kill them or not? If you kill them, they'll break your Tao heart. If you don't, you'll be killed by them. This seat wants you to keep killing, to use the lives of these ants to break your Tao heart. Once your Tao heart is broken, your cultivation will be shackled no matter how heaven-defying your talents are. You'll never be able to improve, and you might even fall into the demonic Tao. Ha! Su Fong's divine light swept past the roaring cultivators, then glanced at the Empyrean sacred sect and the powerhouses in the air. He fell silent. The first supreme elder was right. Su Fong had risked his life to reverse the fate of the immortal Tao. But what had he gained in the end? He'd been betrayed by the heavenly mandate sect and given to the demons as a bargaining chip. He'd been forced to betray his sect and was now wanted by the heavenly mandate sect. No one had stood up for him, and no one had come to his rescue. Under the first supreme elder's threats and temptations, these cultivators wanted to kill him at all costs. How could Su Fong not feel a chill in his heart? Su Fong, this is a world where either you eat me or I eat you. You defied the heavens and changed your fate to save the world of immortal Tao. You were wrong to begin with. Was I wrong? Su Fong's deep eyes revealed hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The cultivators flying out of the immortal city launched a fierce attack on Su Fong. The divine might of divine abilities and Tao weapons converged into a torrent of energy that battered the Yellow Springs Sea of Blood, causing waves to roil. The divine might of reincarnation and devouring was constantly shattered, and the flames of life dimmed considerably. Powerhouses of the heavenly mandate sect, I've attacked Su Fong. The promised reward must not be less. I've earned such a generous reward so easily. Ha ha ha, awesome, this is just awesome. Su Fong is just SOSO. Kill him, and you will reach the heavens in a single bound. Su Fong's silence made the cultivators' attacks even more unbridled and ferocious. The first Supreme Elder's projection sneered. He wanted to use this method to shake Su Fong's Tao heart and shackle his cultivation from then on. Suddenly, Su Fong raised his head and looked at the cultivators who were charging at him without hesitation. His eyes were no longer hesitant, but bright and clear. Cultivators cultivate to have a clear and open mind. Heaven and earth cannot restrain them. I, Su Fong, do not need others to set rules for me. What is right and what is wrong? There is no right or wrong in this world. Right and wrong are my heart. It's right to not go against my heart, and it's wrong to act against my heart. During the great war of immortals and demons, I sacrificed myself to save the immortal path. It was from my heart. When have I ever thought of asking others to repay me? Even if the world betrays me, so what? At this time, I don't go against my heart, even if I kill people. How can I fall into the demonic path? If the world betrays me, and I'm unhappy, then I'll kill to my heart's content. Since the world betrays me, what's wrong with slaughtering the world? In the next second, in the yellow spring sea of blood, a layer of fire clouds suddenly ignited with a boom and instantly turned into a monstrous fire. It turned out that Su Fong had activated the fire cloud emperor physique in his bloodwater state and used the illusory fire cloud. The yellow spring sea of blood's devouring and reincarnation divine power fused with the violent and scorching divine power of fire, causing the space within 100,000 feet and the surrounding area to distort. The laws shattered and collapsed, and the wave-like attacks were incinerated layer by layer into nothingness. For the empty promises of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, you are willing to become cannon fodder. Death is not to be regretted. Today, I, Su Fong, will kill so that no one dares to have any greed for me. Su Fong's clanging voice was filled with killing intent, and it spread in all directions. Whoosh, 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 the yellow spring sea of blood, which was burning with fire clouds, suddenly surged with a monstrous wave of fire. It was like a huge wave peak, and with a terrifying momentum that could destroy and incinerate everything, it crushed toward the immortal path cultivators. In an instant, only the blood-red clouds of fire were left in the world. The cultivators struggled in pain in the sea of fire, and their miserable screams were endless. The blood waves of the burning clouds of fire swept through the air, devouring and incinerating everything. Everywhere they went, only the distorted and shattered void was left. The cultivators who had been bewitched by the first Supreme Elder to rush to Su Fong for the astronomical reward offered by the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect wished that they had a pair of wings so that they could escape faster. However, the yellow spring sea of blood released a powerful suction force that caused the space within 100,000 feet to distort. Those cultivators involuntarily flew toward the sea of blood and were instantly devoured by the fire clouds. After half an hour, the sky above the immortal city was empty. The battle in the sky was quickly decided. His second primordial spirit had the body of an immortal fiend monster that had fused with 5 demon god battle slaves. Moreover, it had the divine might of a primordial spirit that could easily suppress a pinnacle Tao realm expert. It could even fight 2 pinnacle Tao realm experts with ease. It didn't even need to use the demonic saber, a divine demonic artifact. The Dead Lord's current strength was almost at his peak when he was alive. With the dark sky burying Coffin, it was very easy for him to fight against the hook-nosed elder. However, it would be very difficult to kill him. At the height of the advanced Tao realm, it was possible to severely injure an immortal of the same level, but it was almost impossible to kill him, unless it was a demigod expert or a peerless Tao artifact or divine ability. Bai Ling and Gue faced more than a dozen powerful enemies. However, Bai Ling's strange movement techniques and the terrifying power of the Chaos Ring allowed him to easily deal with the many Tao realm cultivators. Gue was the most terrifying. Sometimes it turned into black blood, and sometimes it condensed into a flesh body, turning into a monster that spat out poisonous fire and smoke. When the Tao realm cultivators came into contact with its venom, their flesh would be torn open, and they would lose the ability to fight. Some were even swallowed by Gue after being seriously injured. The Tao realm cultivators who had come aggressively saw how powerful Su Fong's subordinates were, and how cruel and evil they were. When they saw Su Fong turn into a sea of blood and fire and devour everything, they realized that Su Fong was 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than the legend said. First Supreme Elder, where are the Tianming Hao Tsang sect cultivators? A peak Dao realm cultivator who was fighting the dead lord couldn't help but question the first Supreme Elder's will shadow. The first Supreme Elder said majestically, "Hold on for a little longer. The Tianming Hao Tsang sect cultivators will arrive. I've done my best. Please forgive me, First Supreme Elder." Cultivators who had reached the peak of their cultivation were all cunning old foxes. How could they not understand that they had been used as cannon fodder by the Tianming Hao Tsang sect? Chapter 1698. When the others saw this, they all ran away. 9 Sons, Chapter 1717. The old man with a hooked nose was no longer filled with hatred and greed. He no longer had any will to fight. However, just as he was about to run, his second nascent spirit activated the demonic saber and unleashed a terrifying blow that could cut through the sky, shattering the old man's defense. The old man had just had time to activate a shield Dharma treasure, but his body was cut into two by the demonic saber along with the Dharma treasure. The battle in the air was over in a short time. As for the Yellow Springs Blood Sea that Su Fong had transformed into, everything was wiped out in its path. Then, the sea of blood roiled and surged toward the ultimate sacred sect's half of the mountain. Submit, we're willing to submit. Stop, I'm willing to submit to you with the ultimate sacred sect. We'll be your slaves. Everyone, including the supreme sacred forefather, began to beg for mercy. Su Fong was unmoved. The sea of blood turned into an explosive torrent and surged toward the ultimate sacred sect's defensive formation. The supreme sacred forefather was both shocked and furious. Su Fong, I've already submitted, and you still want to kill us all. Boom! The Yellow Springs Blood Sea crashed into the ultimate sacred sect's defensive formation and shook violently. Half of the mountain suddenly sank. However, the sect's grand array remained unmoved. After all, this was a sect that could shake a major world. The sect was its foundation. Thus, its defensive grand array was naturally incomparably sturdy. Seeing this, the despairing cultivators of the ultimate sacred sect seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. Do you think you can shake our sect's defensive formation? Maintain the formation with all you've got. As long as we can buy some time, the elites of the Tianming Bright sect will arrive. By then, not only will the ultimate sacred sect be safe, but Su Fong will also be suppressed by the Tianming Bright sect. The supreme sacred forefather shouted and ordered the cultivators of the ultimate sacred sect to focus all their power on the formation. You're about to die, yet you're still hoping that the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect will save you? The Heavens Fate Bright Firmament sect's sect master was heavily injured by me and almost lost his life. The Grand Elder was also heavily injured by me and only dared to fan the flames. Even the fate of the Heavens Fate Bright Firmament sect has been devoured by me. It's already at the end of its days and will be destroyed sooner or later. A mere formation can't stop my Su Fong. Not even the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect, can save you. As I said before, from today onwards, there will be no more everlasting sacred sect in the outside world. A voice full of murderous intent came from the blood, as if the heavenly Tao was announcing the death of the supreme sacred sect. Whoosh, the fire clouds and the Yellow Springs Blood Sea suddenly burned into white flames. It turned out that Su Fong had once again activated the 9 Suns' immortal flames. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea seeped into the formation through the gaps between the formation's immortal marks, and then the 9 Suns' immortal flames burned from the inside out. The mountain-protecting grand array that the Supreme Saint sect considered as a life-saving straw was said to be a peerless existence at the peak of the high-level Tao realm. It was a powerful array formation that couldn't be broken even after half a month. However, under the terrifying power of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea and the 9 Suns celestial fire, it shattered layer by layer and finally collapsed. Whoosh! The blood water poured into the supreme sacred sect like a flood from a dam and then spread out like a flood. The world turned into a sea of blood, swallowing everything in its path. Tens of thousands of supreme sacred sect cultivators cried for help in the blood water and were instantly corroded into blood water. Su Fong, I'll fight you to the death. An old man jumped out from the depths of the mountain and roared in despair. He burned his life force, true qi, and nascent spirit. At the same time, he activated the world origin of the supreme, sacred, immortal world and released an aura comparable to a peak Tao realm expert. He charged at Su Fong in the bloodwater state. Do you think you're qualified to fight me to the death? Su Fong's body condensed in the bloodwater, holding a large bow in his hand. The bow was more than 5 feet long and covered in ancient immortal runes. The blood-red bowstring had the shadow of a golden dragon coiling around it. Roar! As the bowstring was drawn, a murderous aura accompanied by a dragon's roar filled the sky. Screech! The shadow of a dragon shot out from the bowstring and tore through the void, tearing apart the supreme sacred ancestor's aura. Just as the supreme sacred ancestor was about to use his movement technique to dodge the immortal slaughtering bow's attack, a devouring force erupted from the Yellow Spring's blood sea and caused him to stagger. The dragon arrow from the immortal slaughtering bow whistled through the air and took away his right arm. In the next moment, the blood water burning with the 9 suns' immortal flames surged out and covered the supreme sacred ancestor. Sizzle! Whoosh! Whoosh! No matter how the supreme sacred ancestor struggled, he couldn't break free from the shackles of the blood sea. He was burned, incinerated, corroded, and devoured layer by layer. In the end, he stopped screaming and struggling and turned into a corpse that burned in the blood flames. This scene, the faces of the cultivators in the immortal city turned pale. Their bodies trembled, and their backs were drenched in sweat. Some of the more timid ones were so scared that they wet their pants. It wasn't like there weren't any who were scared silly. When the blood sea disappeared, the world fell into a dead silence. Half of the mountain where the supreme sacred sect used to be was barren, without a single blade of grass. The abundant spirit energy was also gone. It was a complete ruin with not a single person to be seen. The supreme sacred sect was completely erased from existence. Not a single blade of grass was left behind. Su Fong, who had recovered his physical form, leaped into the air. His not-so-tall figure was deeply imprinted in the hearts of every cultivator, becoming a nightmare that would never be erased. After a frenzied devouring, not only did Su Fong completely recover the life force he used to activate the Xianming lightning scroll, his life force became even more boundless. By Shan, ancient devil is right. Whether it's a small world or a large world, in the end, people kill people and people eat people. It's either I kill you or you kill me. There's no difference between humans and demons in essence. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor was originally a righteous cultivator, but he was called the Devil Emperor by others. That's because he wanted revenge, to protect his friends, and to avoid being oppressed and shackled. That's why he decided to conquer the world and kill his way out of it. The so-called Tao heart is actually ruthlessness. Do as you please and kill without hesitation. Those who stand in my way will die. Those who disturb my Tao heart will die. At this moment, Su Fong had a deep understanding of the Yellow Spring Emperor's experience. After this slaughter, his heart felt much more at ease. He had a strong feeling that he could break through to the high levels of the Tao realm at any time. Treasure location. This kid has talent, ambition, and the courage to kill. He's already become a thorn in the side of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect. The will of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect's first supreme elder watched the entire process coldly, but his heart was shaken. Su Fong, you've killed cultivators of the immortal Tao with evil methods. You've fallen to the demonic Tao and will become the public enemy of the entire immortal Tao world. That's your true goal, isn't it? Su Fong said coldly. As long as I have a clear conscience. So what if I'm evil or demonic? You can't shake my Tao heart at all. On the contrary, you've strengthened it and given me limitless potential in the future. Su Fong's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. As the ruler of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect and the leader of the immortal Tao, You've always compromised to the demons and used all sorts of methods to bully and deceive cultivators of the immortal Tao. With such a Tao heart, your life's achievements will end here. You won't be able to take that final step. The first Supreme Elder's projection wavered. Su Fang's words were as sharp as knives, causing his Tao heart to become slightly unstable. I'll let you be arrogant for now. You'll be suppressed sooner or later. The first Supreme Elder snorted, and his will projection blurred. You've caused so many cultivators to lose their lives. You want to leave without leaving anything behind? Su Fang suddenly revealed an eerie, murderous intent. The first Supreme Elder's projection that was about to dissipate chuckled. What? Do you want to keep this seat here? This seat has only descended with a strand of divine sense. What can you do if you destroy it? Destroying just a strand of your divine sense would be letting you off too easily. Su Fang looked at the Grand Elder's projection with ethereal divine light shooting out of his eyes. The Tao runes of fate were activated by Su Fang at this moment. The mysterious Tao runes of fate flickered and burned with flames, turning into silent lightning of fate. Lightning of fate. The first Supreme Elder's divine sense felt a terrifying sense of impending doom. It was as if he was facing heavenly punishment. Not only was this projection of divine sense about to be completely destroyed, everything in his fate was about to be completely destroyed. What kind of ability is this? The first Supreme Elder was aghast and was immediately killed by an ethereal power of fate, deep in the celestial land of destiny. Su Fang, you may have a supreme ability, but so what? This seat is a supreme existence in the great world. No matter how powerful your ability is, you're still like an ant. How can you shake this seat? The first Supreme Elder's true body sneered embarrassedly. Suddenly, the first Supreme Elder's smile froze on his face, and a look of shock and horror appeared on his face. Boom! The lightning of fate could wipe out everything related to fate. Although Su Fang's divine sense was targeted at the first Supreme Elder's divine sense, his true body couldn't escape the suppression of the power of fate. The first Supreme Elder felt a huge hand pressing down on him, wanting to strip him of everything. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. As expected of a demigod expert, he actually managed to resist the lightning of fate. However, his face couldn't help but rapidly age, and his aura withered to the limit. What a terrifying ability. The first Supreme Elder only let out a long sigh of relief when he felt the terrifying power that could wipe out everything disappear from his body. His eyes were filled with lingering fear. It was truly too terrifying. That ethereal divine might actually wanted to completely erase all traces of his existence. Was there anything more terrifying than this? I can't count on the Azura gods, and the same goes for the demons. Looks like I can only use my final trump card. Chapter 1699. Su Fang had also paid a heavy price to severely injure the first Supreme Elder with the thunder of destiny. Yin female sign 8, Yin female sign 8, Yin female sign read, Yin female sign books, 230 Yin, Yin directly activating the thunder of destiny to suppress an enemy's fate consumed a great deal of life force to begin with. Not to mention that the target was a supreme demigod. Su Fang's life force was wantonly consumed and rapidly drained away. His hair quickly turned ashen, and his face changed to that of an old man in his 50s or 60s. Fortunately, Su Fang had devoured the paramount sacred sect before this, and his life force was at its peak. Otherwise, the consumption would have exceeded the limits of what he could bear. Still, it was worth it to pay such a price. The first Supreme Elder wouldn't be able to pose much of a threat to Su Fang after suffering such a great loss, unless he didn't mind dying. Su Fang was incomparably delighted with this slaughter. The great breakthrough in his Tao heart brought with it an increase in his cultivation realm. Divine light swept across the immortal city below. Su Fang smiled sheepishly and waved a hand to collect the fiend god monster, Bai Ling, the undead lord, and Gui into his body, then calmly left. The scale of this battle was far smaller than the great war of immortals and demons, but the impact it caused was no less than that. Su Fang's decisive and ruthless slaughter had broken free from the suppression of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. His domineering rise was unstoppable. In the world of immortals, their impression of Su Fang had undergone a complete change. In the eyes of immortal Tao cultivators, Su Fang was no longer a peerless genius, nor was he the spiritual leader of the immortal Tao. Nor was he a weakling who could be bullied by the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. He was a rising, peerless figure who could look down on demigods. At this moment, no one could overshadow his brilliance. Regarding Su Fang's evaluation, there were also mixed. Some said that Su Fang was a heavenly hero who'd saved the immortal Tao, while others called him a demon of evil Tao. However, there was one thing in common. It was fear towards Su Fang from the bottom of his heart. Even a supreme existence at the peak of the Tao realm would feel a chill from the bottom of his heart when Su Fang's name was mentioned. After this battle, the news of Su Fang devouring the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect's fortune and severely injuring their first supreme elder spread. The sect's position as the #1 faction in the immortal Tao world was thoroughly shaken. However, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect had dominated the great world for many years. In the short term, no faction could replace the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect's position. Heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect's bounty on Su Fang immediately became a joke. This was like a tiger placing a bounty among a group of rabbits to capture another tiger. No matter how generous the bounty was, which rabbit would dare to chase after the tiger? Not long after the battle, the wanted posters in the immortal cities were taken away. However, everyone knew that the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would not take this lying down. They still had a chance of killing Su Fang. If they allowed Su Fang to continue growing, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would be annihilated. How could they sit still and wait for death? As for what method the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would use to deal with Su Fang, the immortal Tao world had no way of knowing. After all, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect had led the immortal Tao world for countless years and had a deep foundation that outsiders did not know about. The shock brought about by this matter quickly subsided. The attention of the 8 factions in the immortal Tao world was all focused on the cloud heaven sacred ground that had appeared not long ago. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect did not change its usual domineering and forceful attitude. It directly sent a large number of experts to seal the cloud heaven's sacred ground from the outside. No faction or cultivator could approach the cloud heaven's sacred ground. Of course, it was impossible for the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect to swallow the cloud heaven sacred ground alone. After a round of bargaining, the 8 factions finally reached an agreement. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would take the lead and unite the various factions to open a passage that led directly to the depths of the cloud heaven sacred ground. Then, the cloud heaven sacred ground would be divided according to the amount of effort. Whoosh! A green-robed man broke through the air and appeared in the chaotic void outside the chaotic sky great world. It was the green feather demon emperor who had disguised himself as a green-robed cultivator. Su Fang, that brat, actually caused such a big commotion this time, as expected of the genius that I watched grow up in the small world. Even a colossus like the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect was shaken by him. However, he is still alone in the end. If he can unite the demon world, it will be a great thing for him and the demon world. I wonder where that brat is hiding. It won't be easy to find him. The green feather demon emperor muttered to himself, and then merged back into the void and disappeared without a trace. The shackles of the world and space could not cause any hindrance to him. Time flew by. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect and the 8 factions joined forces and spent 100 years to open a passage through the heavy fog and unveil the mystery of the cloud heaven sacred ground. On the contrary, some experts were trapped in the fog and never came out again, including some high-level Tao realm experts. However, it was not without gains. Some people accidentally found a royal gray Tao artifact in the fog outside the cloud heaven sacred ground. Some people obtained the top cultivation technique manuals of the great world. As for other spiritual items and ancient elixirs, there were also many. Such amazing treasures made the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect and the experts from the 8 immortal realms scramble for the cloud heaven sacred ground even more. On this day, an aura rushed out of nowhere, but it was definitely not in the cloud heaven sacred ground. It was in the chaotic space-time far away from the cloud heaven sacred ground. This aura shot straight into the sky. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and the heavenly Tao seemed to stop operating at this moment. People's thoughts and consciousness stopped. Time, space, energy, and laws all had an instant of stagnation. An extremely unfamiliar heavenly Tao aura enveloped heaven and earth. It was as if another heavenly Tao had appeared in the great world's heavenly Tao at this moment. This heavenly Tao was not as vast and profound as the great world's heavenly Tao, but it was an existence that was on par with the great world's heavenly Tao. In the sky, the nebula churned and condensed into a boundless vortex that was like the eye of the heavenly Tao. Moreover, at this moment, as the starlight flickered in this eye, there was a trace of emotion in it, just like a human's eyes. It was surprise, shock, and disbelief. The divine sun and evil suns in the sky also dimmed at this moment. An evil and extremely powerful divine thought instantly swept across every corner of the great world. He can actually attract the attention of the heavenly Tao, causing the heavenly eye to appear. Moreover, he's also deceived by the heavenly Tao. Even I can't sense his existence. When did such a peerless figure appear in the great world? Looks like I need to send someone to the great world. The evil and ethereal voice reverberated in the great world and gradually faded away. The great world's cultivators could not see or hear the scene in the sky and the evil voice. In front of the heavenly Tao, the great world's cultivators were like ants. Whether it was the heavenly eye or the evil voice, they had completely exceeded the limits of what they could come into contact with. However, the abnormal movement of the heavenly Tao still brought some changes to the great world. Some ruins and sacred grounds that were sealed by powerful seals or shackles of the world were affected by the omen. The seals and shackles loosened, revealing a trace of something. Look, the cloud heaven sacred ground has appeared. Outside the cloud heaven sacred ground, someone exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention to the cloud heaven sacred ground. A gap suddenly appeared in the fog that shrouded the cloud heaven sacred ground, and one could roughly see the situation inside. The cloud heaven sacred ground was not large and only had a radius of 10,000 miles. Ethereal clouds floated above the material continent, and the ground was covered with mountains, rivers, and forests. In the central area of the material continent, there was a palace surrounded by clouds. Only a corner of the palace was exposed, but a lofty and majestic aura was completely revealed. A corner of the mysterious veil of the cloud heaven's sacred ground was finally unveiled, but it only lasted for a dozen breaths before it was covered by a thick fog again. That palace must be the place where Mother Yun lives and cultivates. All of Mother Yun's inheritance and treasures are in the palace. The cultivators were shocked by the sudden appearance of the cloud heaven's sacred ground and immediately fell into a frenzy. The powerhouses of the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong sect, and the other forces also desperately sent more people to speed up the progress of opening the passageway. At the same time, in the chaotic void outside the chaotic sky great world, Su Fong sat cross-legged on the ground above a small ruin. He had created layers of array formations around Su Fong. He had also inserted more than 10 ancient spirit meridians into the ruins, causing the spirit chi in the array formations to become extremely abundant. The immortal fiend monsters, undead lords, Gui, Gay, Dragonbird, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and other big goblin, as well as more than 300,000 elite subordinates, formed layers of powerful defenses outside the array formations. All of them looked as if they were facing a great enemy. At this moment, shocking tribulation fire burned on Su Fong's body. At the same time, he also used the illusory fire cloud and the nine-sun celestial fire, completely turning him into a man of fire. Even through the layers of array formations, his subordinates outside could feel the terrifying power of the flames and had to use their divine abilities to defend themselves. Half-floating life. It turned out that Su Fang's Tao heart had broken through after destroying the ultimate sacred sect. After 100 years of consolidation, which should have been 1,000 years in the time cave abode, he had finally reached the advanced stage of the Tao realm. It took longer than any other time to break through from the intermediate stage of the Tao realm to the advanced stage. However, compared to other Tao realm cultivators who needed millions or even tens of millions of years to break through to the next stage, Su Fang's speed of improvement was heaven-defying. This breakthrough attracted the attention of the heavenly I and even the supreme evil god in the divine world. Even Su Fang himself didn't notice. At this moment, he was still immersed in the breakthrough. With the help of the power of advancement, Emperor Tianbao's great Tao of weapon refinement, tribulation fire, illusory fire cloud, and nine-sun celestial fire, he smelted his body like a Tao artifact. His yin-yang Tao wheel was the Tao artifact's Tao palace of heaven and earth. In this way, not only was Su Fang's physical body transforming, but the various true forms based on the perfect physical body and the Tao palace of heaven and earth, also known as the Godhead, were also transforming. Chapter 1700. Su Fang was in the process of evolving. 9 Truths and 9 Suns, Chapter 1719. Meanwhile, deep inside the Tianming celestial land of the Tianming sect, in an independent space, the first Supreme Elder was staring at a stone statue floating in the void. His eyes were filled with struggle and hesitation. A moment later, the first Supreme Elder wore a determined look as he transmitted his primordial spirit to the stone statue. Progenitor, I've been asleep for countless years. Could it be that the Tianming Haotsong sect is on the verge of extinction? A faint voice that seemed to come from ancient times came out from the stone statue. The stone statue that had been deathly still suddenly gained a sliver of life at this moment. It turned out that the stone statue was not an ordinary stone statue, nor was it a puppet. The stone statue contained the Tianming Haotsong sect's progenitor. The Tianming Haotsong sect progenitor was a peerless genius. He established the Tianming Haotsong sect with the Taiwan Bell and rose to prominence in the outside world, becoming the strongest faction in the outside world. Later on, the Tianming progenitor ascended to the God Realm and joined the God Realm's faction, the Seal Heaven Divine Path. However, he was treated as a slave and suffered humiliation. 9 Truths and 9 Suns, Chapter 1719. Even the Tianming Haotsong sect he established was controlled by the Seal Heaven Divine Path and became their puppet faction in the outside world. Before the Tianming progenitor died, he escaped from the Seal Heaven Divine Path and returned to the Tianming Haotsong sect. He sealed himself in the stone statue with a supreme ability and fell into a deep sleep to delay his death. As the Tianming progenitor had escaped from the Seal Heaven Divine Path, the Seal Heaven Divine Path was closely related to the existence that controlled the heavenly Tao of the outside world. Therefore, the heavenly Tao would be aware of the Tianming progenitor's awakening and punish him. Not only the Tianming progenitor would not be able to escape the punishment, even the Tianming Haotsong sect would be implicated. Therefore, the Tianming progenitor was treated as the Tianming Haotsong sect's final trump card. They would not awaken him unless the sect was in danger. It might not be the end of the sect, but it's close. The first Supreme Elder's voice was filled with helplessness. Then, when the first Supreme Elder was about to tell the Tianming Haotsong sect about the Tianming Haotsong sect progenitor, the Tianming progenitor in the stone statue suddenly shouted, "The will of the heavenly Tao is descending." Strange, why is the will of the heavenly Tao descending? The first Supreme Elder's progenitor's eyes progenitor. The treasure is here. Boom! The progenitor, first progenitors, progenitors, progenitor, 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 first, progenitor, progenitor, progenitor. progenitor of the Haotsong Hahakeng, Haotsong, progenitor, heaven's Haotsong, progenitor, was progenitor, God progenitor sect. The golden shadow looked down at the first supreme elder and said in a voice that seemed to come from the horizon, "You have the imperial seal of the seal of heaven divine path in his divine aperture. You should be the representative of the seal of heaven divine path in the outside world, right?" The Supreme Grand Elder replied with trepidation, reporting to Divine Lord, "This one is indeed the Supreme Grand Elder of the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong sect. May I ask if Divine Lord is from the seal Heaven Divine Tao?" The Golden Phantom said majestically, "That's right, I am the envoy from the seal Heaven Divine Path. You can call me Divine Monarch Azure Sunday. The world has changed, and the seal the Heaven's Divine Path has severed its connection with the outside world. This time, I paid a huge price to allow my divine sense to cross the boundary and descend. It is precisely because I have an important matter for the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong sect, to do." The first Supreme Elder was pleasantly surprised. "Sir Divine Lord, have you come to save the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect? Is the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect facing some kind of danger? If that's the case, I'll have to find someone else," the Golden Shadow said indifferently. Only then did the Supreme Grand Elder realize that the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect's safety was nothing in the eyes of the gods of the God world. The gods of the seal Heaven Divine Path didn't care about the sect's survival at all. Not long ago, the supreme god race that controls the heavenly Tao of the outside world sent an order to the seal Heaven Divine Path. They sensed that a cultivator in the outside world had caused the world to resonate when he was breaking through. The heavenly Tao paused for a moment, and the heavenly Tao was specifically ordered to find this cultivator. If he's worth nurturing, the supreme god race will spare no expense to bring this cultivator to the god world and carefully nurture him. The Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect is the #1 faction in the outside world, so it shouldn't be difficult to find this person. The Supreme Grand Elder was shocked and stunned. There's such a person in the outside world? The golden shadow shot out a Xianguang and turned into a light screen. Although the figure in the light screen was a little blurry, the Supreme Grand Elder could recognize it even if it turned into ashes. Who else could it be but Su Fong? The Supreme Grand Elder immediately turned into a log. Unexpectedly, he really didn't expect that Su Fong would break through again and attract the attention of the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao didn't want to punish him, but it wanted to bestow upon him great fortune and give him the opportunity to soar to the sky. The mortal enemy that the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect had schemed to get rid of was valued by the supreme god race that even the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect looked up to. How could the Supreme Grand Elder not be shocked and in despair? The voice of the Golden Shadow was full of surprise. "Why, do you know this person? That's great. Once such a person joins the supreme god race, he will definitely not be an ordinary person in the Heavenly Tao. Find this person as soon as possible and rope him in at all costs. Even if he has a favorable impression of the seal Heaven Divine Path, it will bring great benefits to the seal Heaven Divine Path in the future." Sir God Azure Sun impatiently passed down the order. "Lord Divine Lord, I'm afraid this person won't have a favorable impression of the seal Heaven Divine Path. Instead, he has a monstrous hatred." The Supreme Grand Elder said bitterly and slowly told Lord Qingyang about Su Fong's deeds. When the Supreme Grand Elder said that during the Fifth Heaven and Earth anomaly, Su Fong received the title of Seal Heaven Divine Path at the Destiny platform and inexplicably caused the space to collapse, causing the connection between the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect and the Seal Heaven Divine Path to be severed, Lord Qingyang suddenly understood. "I see." When junior brother Kai Yang sent down his willpower projection and prepared to plant the Imperial Seal on the Sun of Destiny, this person resisted. Not only did the planting of the Imperial Seal fail, junior brother Kai Yang's willpower projection was destroyed and his primordial spirit was severely injured. This caused quite a commotion in the Seal Heaven Divine Path. "I didn't expect it to be this person." Sir God Qin Yang's words shocked First Supreme Elder. Then, he clenched his teeth in anger. The culprit was Su Fong. If he had known, he would have killed him then. How would there be any future troubles? The Supreme Grand Elder was so regretful that his intestines turned green. Lord Qing Yang shouted coldly. Since the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect is in charge of the macro world for the Seal Heaven Divine Path, why didn't I get rid of such a peerless genius as soon as possible since I couldn't use him? The Supreme Grand Elder smiled bitterly and told Lord Qing Yang what happened later. Lord Qing Yang was also surprised and shocked. This cultivator from the macro world named Su Fong has grown to the point where even gods can't suppress him, and he has attracted the attention of the paramount god tribe. Once he joins the god tribe, it will be a huge disaster for the Seal Heaven Divine Path. What should we do? Lord Divine Lord, why don't we just kill him and eliminate all future troubles? Idiot, the paramount god tribe controls the heaven's way of the macro world. As long as I take action, it will immediately attract the attention of the god tribe. By then, even the Seal Heaven Divine Path will be implicated, let alone me. With the paramount god tribe's strong influence in the universe, it will be easy to wipe out the Seal Heaven Divine Path. Do you want to bring disaster to the Seal Heaven Divine Path? After a while, the Supreme Grand Elder suddenly said, Lord Divine Lord, I have an idea. Let's do it. The only thing we can do now is to kill Su Fong in one fell swoop. Lord Divine Lord, you can't do it yourself, and you can't even send gods down. You can only kill Su Fong with the power of the macro world. Even if the paramount god tribe knows about it, they won't punish the Seal Heaven Divine Path. Nonsense. Even the Azura from the god realm couldn't kill him, and was instead seriously injured. How can a heavenly mandate Haotsong sect kill him? At this moment, Ancestor Tian Ming's faint voice came from the stone statue. Lord Qin Yang, how have you been? Suddenly, a golden light burst out from the golden shadow and landed on the stone statue. You are a god from the god realm? Ka. The rock above the stone statue suddenly cracked open, revealing an old man. The old man's face was pale, and his aura carried a faint aura of death, as if he was a corpse that had just crawled out of a coffin. Ancestor Tian Ming said respectfully, Lord Qin Yang, I'm the founding ancestor of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect. After ascending to the god realm, I became a servant of the Seal Heaven Divine Path. I have met Lord Qin Yang several times. Do you remember me? I remember now. You disappeared for no reason back then, because you were related to the Seal Heaven Divine Path's control of the macro world. The sect ordered me to descend to the lower realm to track your whereabouts. I didn't expect you to be hiding in the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect. Your actions are no different from rebellion. Lord Qin Yang released a supreme divine aura that shrouded Ancestor Tianming. He was about to send down heavenly punishment and kill him. At this moment, the Supreme Grand Elder pleaded, Lord Divine Lord, it's all thanks to the Ancestor that we can kill Su Fong. If we kill him, no one can suppress Su Fong. When he ascends to the God realm, he will bring endless trouble to the Seal Heaven Divine Path. Please reconsider. Lord Qin Yang was stunned. After pondering for a moment, Lord Qin Yang slowly dispersed the divine aura that shrouded Ancestor Tianming. Get rid of Su Fong as soon as possible. After that, there is no need for you to exist. Otherwise, you should know how the Seal Heaven Divine Path treats traitors. When the time comes, they will do whatever it takes to come to the macro world from the world's end. Not only you, but the entire heavenly mandate Haotsong sect will not be able to escape heavenly punishment and divine punishment. Chapter 17:01. In the chaotic void outside, the chaotic heaven great world, Su Fong was sitting cross-legged in the formation. The calamity fire, illusionary fire cloud, and nine sun, immortal fire on his body had been burning for half a year. Upper-level Tao realm. Immortal highnesses were known as the supremes among the immortals. Upper-level Tao realm experts were the supremes among the immortal highnesses. Apart from a few peak experts and a handful of half-god experts, the upper-level Tao realm experts were considered the supremes among the immortals. Besides, how could Su Fong be an ordinary upper-level Tao realm expert? Su Fang's aura became even more ethereal, like a heavy sword that had been tempered thousands of times without any sharpness. It looked simple, but once it displayed its sharpness, it would be unbeatable. My perfect flesh has reached a new height. My senses have become stronger too. It feels like I can sense the secrets of the heavens and earth. The Black Lotus true body, dragon subduing true body, fire cloud emperor flesh, and underworld golden body that were built on the perfect flesh have all evolved. Su Fang was overjoyed after inspecting his body. He could now kill a peerless expert at the peak of the upper-level Tao realm with his flesh alone. Meanwhile, Su Fang felt like he had merged with the heavens and earth. He could easily sense the rules of the heavenly Tao and control the laws of nature. So this is the upper-level Tao realm. He looked at the Heaven-Earth Tao Palace. The Yang force in the 52 Yang veins and the World Tree did not change much, but the Heaven-Earth Tao Palace had become deeper and was filled with divinity. It had the aura of the heavenly Tao reincarnation and the evolution of the real universe. It was vast and boundless, containing endless secrets. If I use all my strength and turn myself into a world, I can even fight a half-god expert. However, it will consume a lot of energy too. I won't be able to last long. Su Fang was full of confidence after his strength had improved once again. At this moment, Luo's voice came from the blood jade in his body. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. When you fused with the blood jade, and I saw you for the first time inside the blood jade, you were the lowest level cultivator in the great world. In less than 10,000 years, he had grown to such an extent. It could be said that he stood at the pinnacle of the great world. I feel very honored to be able to witness such a legend. Su Fang responded with a smile. Luo, it's not easy to get such high praise from you. Originally, I wanted to help you devour the flame Kirin beast's heartblood and break out of the blood-colored cage. However, my breakthrough was delayed for so many years. I've been sealed in the blood jade for who knows how long. It was a mere 100 years. There's no hurry. Let's wait until you've stabilized for a while. After ending the communication with Law, Su Fang took all his men into the true dragon realm. Even the spiritual veins that were thrown into the ruins were all collected. Then, Su Fang's young immortal came to the cave abode where Qi Yinzi was cultivating in the true dragon realm. Brother Qi, in the past 100 years, Qi Yinzi had devoured a large number of yin-yang immortal sky pills and spiritual items. Su Fang even took out a king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pill to help Qi Yinzi recover. Although Qi Yinzi had yet to fully recover, he was no longer on the verge of death. He looked much more spirited than before. Qi Yinzi said, Brother Su, I have recovered a little. I will take you to find the magic treasure fragment. Thank you, Brother Qi. That magic treasure fragment was most likely a part of the 10,000 Mammoth Dharma. It was very important. Su Fang had to find it no matter what, so he would not be polite with Qi Yinzi. After releasing Qi Yinzi from the true dragon realm, Su Fang had the immortal demon monster accompany him to the barren land where Qi Yinzi had hidden the magic treasure fragment. With Qi Yinzi's current state, it would be very troublesome if he encountered a strong enemy. Su Fang planned to find a spiritual land and use the flame Kirin beast's heartblood to help Law break through his shackles. He could not leave at the moment, so he let his second primordial spirit go with Qi Yinzi. With his second primordial spirit's current strength, even if it encountered a demigod expert, it could escape if it could not defeat them. Su Fang was naturally not worried about any problems. The chaotic energy of the world is everywhere in the chaotic sky world. It will be somewhat difficult to find a place with abundant spiritual energy. Where to find a spiritual land was a headache for Su Fang. If there was no other way, he could only use the spiritual veins and ethereal enlightenment's supreme abhijna to artificially create a spiritual land. Law, however, was very relaxed. He spoke from the blood jade. Didn't the cloud heaven's sacred ground appear in the chaotic sky great world? Since it's called a sacred ground, there must be a spiritual land with abundant natural spirit chi. Why don't you go to the cloud heaven's sacred ground? Not only will the spiritual land problem be solved, but you might also meet Huang Lingyao and continue your previous fate. Cloud Heaven's Sacred Ground? That's a good choice, but it's very likely that the Cloud Heaven's Sacred Ground is related to Huang Lingyao. That woman is cunning and ruthless. If she affects your important matters, the gains will not make up for the losses. Huang Lingyao's fate is very entangled with yours. Just wait and see. Something will happen between you sooner or later. You can't avoid it even if you want to. Suddenly, buzz, buzz, buzz. A huge commotion suddenly came from Su Fang's divine aperture. The divine aperture flashed with the heavenly secret life, shrinking techniques, destiny, Tao text. After a flash, it turned into the figure of a man in green. Who else could it be but the Green Feather Demon Emperor? Senior Green Feather has also come to the chaotic sky great world. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. After parting with the Green Feather Demon Emperor in the dreamy cloud heaven, he had planned to have an exchange with him and the two peerless demon saints of the demon realm. However, a series of unforeseen events had happened, and he had not seen the Green Feather Demon Emperor again. He did not expect to meet the Green Feather Demon Emperor again in the chaotic sky great world. Su Fang immediately activated the physical body perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to sense the Green Feather Demon Emperor's aura. Whoosh! To Su Fang's surprise, the Green Feather Demon Emperor's figure flashed within his sensing range. It was so fast that Su Fang had no time to react. Then, Su Fang's perfect vision saw more than a dozen cultivators flying through the chaotic void. They seemed to be chasing after the Green Feather Demon Emperor. From the auras and clothes of these cultivators, Su Fang determined their origins. They were cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Among them was a great elder whose strength had reached the high-level Tao realm. Heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, you actually dare to chase after my friend. If I don't destroy the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, I, Su Fang, am not human. Su Fang instantly became murderous. Su Fang, saving people is more important. My matter can be temporarily put aside, Law said from the Blood Jade. All right, let's save Senior Green Feather first. Su Fang immediately flew out from the ruins. With the Green Feather Demon Emperor's current strength, once he fully activated his talent, even a peak high-level Tao realm powerhouse would be unable to catch up to him. Su Fang was delayed for a moment, and was already unable to capture his aura. He could only head towards the cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Great Biscuit Feast. Venerable Xianlin is actually here too. Through his perfected vision, Su Fang immediately saw that Venerable Xianlin was also among the cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect who were chasing after the Green Feather Demon Emperor. Xianlin. Su Fang secretly transmitted his essence soul to Venerable Xianlin. Master is nearby. The voice of Su Fang's essence soul suddenly sounded in Venerable Xianlin's mind, causing his body to tremble in fear. Su Fang asked, "Let me ask you, when did you come to the chaotic sky great world? Why is the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect chasing after the Green Feather Demon Emperor?" When the cloud heaven holy land appeared, the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect sent out a large number of powerhouses. As I am proficient in the great Tao of array formations, I was also sent out. Just a few days ago, the powerhouses of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and above received an order from the first Grand Elder to search for Master's whereabouts. Master's good friend from the rock race from the demon realm was also searching for Master's traces. In the end, his identity was exposed a few days ago, so the powerhouses of the sect chased after him everywhere. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect is indeed unwilling to give up. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. Venerable Xianlin reminded, "Master, you must not be careless. The sect plans to capture Master's monster friends and then use them as bait to design a trap to kill Master." Su Fang smiled coldly. In the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, other than the first Grand Elder, who else can be my match? Even if the first Grand Elder personally makes a move, I am confident in killing him. They actually dare to scheme against me? They really don't know what death is. Unexpectedly, Venerable Xianlin said, Master, don't underestimate the foundation of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. In the sect, other than the powerhouses that you could see on the surface, there are also some unknown forces in the sect. I just found out about them too. Any family or sect had a foundation that was passed down, let alone the number one faction of the immortal Tao, the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Their foundation naturally couldn't be underestimated. Su Fong became vigilant in his heart. He raised his brows and asked, what foundation? Could it be that the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect still has a demigod powerhouse? I'm not very sure what it is exactly either, but the first Grand Elder is very confident this time. From the decree he issued, it can be seen that as long as he finds Master's whereabouts, he has the confidence to kill Master. Master, you must not be careless. Only a god can kill me. Could it be that Sang Han of the Azura race has recovered from his injuries? Su Fong was surprised. Then he asked, Xianlin, did Sang Han contact you later? Venerable Xianlin hurriedly said, ever since that god was seriously injured by Master last time, he has been in seclusion in the sect and hasn't contacted me. Clearly, he doesn't take a small character like me seriously. It shouldn't be Sang Han. The possibility of it being the demon race isn't high either. The first Grand Elder should have something else to rely on. Xianlin, stay in the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect for the time being. Once there's news about Monster Emperor Qingyu or the higher-ups of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, report to me immediately. Yes, Master. Chapter 1702. In Su Fong's heart, the green feather demon emperor's status was almost as important as his father, Su Fong. Su Fong had never treated him as a big goblin, but as a close elder. This time, it was because of Su Fong that the green feather demon emperor was being hunted down by the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect. Even if Su Fong had something important to do, he had to temporarily suppress it and find the green feather demon emperor first. Fortunately, the green feather demon emperor's current strength was very impressive. He also had the talent of speed and space. It would definitely not be easy for the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect to capture him, so Su Fong wasn't too worried about him. Su Fong contacted his second essence soul and asked it to continue searching for the magic treasure fragments with Qi Yinzi before leaving the ruins. Under the constant detection of the heavenly mandate life shrinking technique, Su Fong couldn't capture the aura of the green feather demon emperor. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong used the ability of the heavenly mandate to peer into the secrets of the heavens to deduce the safety of the green-feathered demon emperor. In the end, the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect didn't show that the green-feathered demon emperor would be in any danger. Only then did Su Fong's heart calm down. He followed the cultivators of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect from afar and headed towards the depths of the chaotic space-time outside the chaotic sky great world. About 10 days later, the voice of Venerable Xianlin came from his essence soul. Master, I just received news from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect. They found the whereabouts of the big goblin of the rock race. They found Senior Green Feather? Su Fong was surprised. Logically speaking, it was unlikely for the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect to capture the traces of the green feather demon emperor in such a short period of time. In order to search for the treasures of the Cloud Heaven Holy Land this time, the sect specially invited a peak high-level Tao realm powerhouse from a faction called the Cloud-Piercing sect from another immortal realm. This person has a cloud-piercing mystic feathered eagle that has almost reached the height of a demon saint. Not only is his speed astonishing, but he also has a very powerful eye. Therefore, it was easy for the heavenly mandate sect to find the big goblin of the rock race. Su Fong's heart sank. Where is he now? How is the situation? Master, don't worry for the time being. The heavenly mandate Haotsong sect did not capture Master's friend from the Rock Clan. The big goblin of the Rock Clan fled into the sky sacred ground under the encirclement of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect's experts. Senior Qingyu escaped into the cloud heaven sacred ground. Su Fong was startled and startled. His heart was in suspense. Jiuyang, chapter 1721. The sudden appearance of the cloud heaven sacred ground was most likely related to Huang Lingyao. If the green feather demon emperor escaped into the cloud heaven's sacred ground and encountered Huang Lingyao, who knew what kind of danger he would face, Su Fong hurriedly asked, "The heavenly mandate how Tsang sect has been trying to open up a passageway into the sky, sacred ground, all these years. What's the result? Our sect has joined forces with other forces, and we've already entered the outer layer of the mist and reached the cloud heaven's sacred ground. However, the interior of the cloud heaven's sacred ground is fraught with danger, and it is difficult for the sect's experts to enter. The big goblin of the Rock clan used his innate spatial ability to escape into the depths of the cloud heaven's sacred ground. The sect's experts are unable to do anything to him for the time being. Let's go to the sky's sacred ground." Su Fong immediately made a decision and released Bai Ling from the time and space cave abode. Bai Ling was already on the verge of breaking through to the demon saint realm. Not only did she have strength, but she also had the power of chaos. In this chaotic space-time, other cultivators and the big goblin were shackles, but to her, it was like a fish in water. Whoosh! Bai Ling flew in a strange arc in the chaotic space-time and disappeared into the void. Cloud heaven, sacred ground. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators gathered outside, and they were all experts with extraordinary strength. All of them were like hungry wolves attracted by a fat piece of meat. They looked at the cloud heaven, sacred ground with eyes that flickered with vigor. Unfortunately, the outer layer of the cloud heaven, sacred ground was filled with layers of mist. Even immortal supremacy experts might not return after entering, so not many dare to take the risk and enter. The heavenly mandate how Tsang sect and other forces had already opened up a passageway in the mist. They had also created a powerful array formation to stabilize the passageway and connect it to the interior of the cloud heaven sacred ground. However, the entrance of the passageway was guarded by the experts of the heavenly mandate how Tsang sect. Apart from the heavenly mandate how Tsang sect and a few other forces, no one else could enter. Therefore, these cultivators could only watch helplessly as they cursed the heavenly mandate how Tsang sect countless times in their hearts. Whoosh! A white figure shuttled out of the chaotic void. After circling in the air, it flew directly toward the entrance of the passageway. Everyone's attention was attracted to that direction. It's actually a crane demon? This crane demon actually wants to enter the cloud heaven sacred ground. Isn't he afraid of being suppressed by the heavenly mandate how Tsang sect? While everyone was discussing, the crane demon arrived at the entrance of the passageway. This crane demon is quite bold. He actually came to us. The heavenly mandate how Tsang sect cultivators were not surprised. They wondered if there was something wrong with this crane demon's head. The person guarding the entrance of the passageway was a heavenly mandate how Tsang sect grand elder. He instantly beamed. A crane demon that's close to the demon saint level? It's rare to see a crane demon that can grow to such a level in the great world. I just happen to be lacking a mount, so this crane demon is very suitable. The crane-type big goblin was a very common big goblin in the great world. Furthermore, they were not very powerful. Usually, after being shackled by immortals, they would be reared in caves or dojos for ornamental purposes. A crane demon that could reach the peak of the demon emperor level was almost impossible to find in the great world. If one could have such a mount, it would naturally be something to be proud of. You want to ride this fairy? In the three realms, apart from my little brother, who dares to touch me? This crane demon was naturally Bai Ling. Her words were easily misunderstood and immediately caused many cultivators to roar with laughter. The heavenly mandate how Tsang sect grand elder chuckled. If your little brother can ride you, then I can naturally ride you as well. However, I prefer to ride young and beautiful women. I don't have much interest in big goblin. After you transform into a human, if you're beautiful enough, I might consider it. The 100 or so heavenly mandate how Tsang sect cultivators at the entrance of the passageway laughed without restraint. You're courting death. Only then did Bai Ling realize that she had said something wrong. She was instantly enraged. She opened her mouth and spat out the mixed gold chaos ring. It suddenly expanded to 3 meters in size and flew toward the Grand Elder. What kind of Tao artifact is this? The Grand Elder's eyes were sharp. He could tell at a glance that the Chaos Ring was extraordinary. He was instantly shocked and activated a peak supreme grade flying sword. Boom, boom, boom. The Chaos Ring's circle swept across and hit the flying sword, causing a huge tremor. The flying sword was like a piece of tofu. After a series of cracks, it turned into a large number of particles. What a terrifying Tao artifact! The Grand Elder was dumbfounded. He was sent flying by the Chaos Ring and spat out a mouthful of blood. The other heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect cultivators, were also incomparably shocked. What a formidable crane demon! Everyone, go and suppress it. The Grand Elder shouted coldly and issued an order to the other cultivators. You think I'm afraid just because you have more people? Bai Ling sneered disdainfully and then shouted loudly, Brother, someone's bullying your sister. Why aren't you coming out to help? Swoosh! A lotus-shaped Tao artifact that bloomed with rainbow light flew out from the feathers on Bai Ling's head. As it rapidly expanded, a figure flew out from it. This is your little brother? He actually likes to ride Big Goblin. His taste is really heavy. Oh. The heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect elder, first mocked and ridiculed. Then, like a chicken that had its neck grabbed, he let out a strange cry of shock and fear. His face turned ghastly pale in an instant. Su Fong. That's Su Fong. Su Fong actually came to the cloud heaven sacred ground too. The heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect cultivators at the entrance of the passage, and the cultivators from the other forces in the distance gasped at the same time when they saw the face of the cultivator beside Bai Ling. Those heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect cultivators instantly felt as if they had fallen into an ice hole. Waves of coldness ran through their bodies, and they trembled uncontrollably. Su Fong looked at the Grand Elder indifferently. What did you just say? This Grand Elder, whose strength had reached the high-level Tao realm, was actually trembling nonstop at this moment. He was so frightened that his teeth kept chattering, and he could not even speak a complete sentence. Slap yourself 100 times, and I'll spare your life, Su Fong said indifferently. You actually humiliated me like this. Flames of anger burned in the Grand Elder's eyes after being humiliated like this. However, in the next moment, he thought of Su Fong's ruthless methods and incomparably powerful strength. Killing a high-level Tao realm expert like him was as easy as killing a chicken. The anger in his heart instantly disappeared. What kind of danger had he not experienced before being able to cultivate to the high-level Tao realm? What kind of humiliation had he not endured? Compared to his life, what was a little humiliation? My mouth is cheap and my words are rude. I deserve to die for offending this fairy. Please forgive me, fairy. As the first elder spoke, he raised his palms and slapped his face with both hands. Pa pa pa. Every slap was like a slap to the hearts of the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect cultivators. They were all frightened. A simple sentence made the Grand Elder of the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect, have no choice but to slap himself in the face. How domineering and powerful. The left side of your face is not swollen enough. Use more strength. Not bad. That's it. Bai Ling had already transformed into her human form and had already put away the Chaos Ring. She smiled as she watched the Grand Elder torture himself. Then, she pointed at the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect cultivators, and said, They all mocked sister just now. Should we cut off all their tongues? Swoosh! The cultivators of the heavenly fate, Hao Tsong's sect, shuddered as their faces turned even paler. At this moment, two cultivators flew out and cupped their fists at Su Fong at the same time. One of them said, Brother Su, on account of our past relationship, let these fellow disciples go. Lu Yuetian. The person who spoke was someone Su Fong was familiar with. He was one of the top 10 disciples of the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsong's sect, Lu Yuetian. The other person was no stranger to Su Fong. It was Dao Xiantian, who had a conflict with Su Fong before. He did not expect the two of them to also come to the sky's sacred ground. Chapter 1703. Su Fong was not a bloodthirsty person. Jiuzhen Jiang, Chapter 1722. It was the heavenly fate bright firmament sect that held a grudge against him, not the cultivators of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. Louis Wetian and Dao Xintian had risked their lives to fight the demon tribe during the Great War of the Immortals and Demons. Su Fang's impression of them had changed a lot. Su Fang naturally felt a little apologetic for humiliating them. "Thank you, Brother Su." Louis Wetian and Dao Xintian cupped their fists gratefully. Both of them were proud people, unlike the Great Elder. If they were humiliated in public, not only would they lose face, their Dao heart would be affected too, and their cultivation in the future would be affected. Both of them were grateful to Su Fang, but they sighed in their hearts at the same time. When Su Fang first came to the heavenly fate bright firmament sect, they looked down on him because he was just a country bumpkin from the desolate celestial realm. Dao Xintian even had a conflict with Su Fang because of his sister. He even wanted to kill Su Fang. Only a few years had passed, but Su Fang had already become a supreme existence that they had to look up to. They did not even have the right to be jealous of Su Fang. How could they sigh? Su Fang asked the Great Elder. "The big goblin of the Peng tribe that you are chasing has entered the heavenly fate bright firmament sacred ground." The Great Elder had already slapped Louis Wetian 100 times. He stood there respectfully. He quickly responded when he heard Su Fang's question. "Yes. Sister Bai, let's go." Su Fang withdrew Bai Ling into the true dragon world and entered the passage. The cultivators of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect heaved a sigh of relief. However, their hearts were filled with helplessness and humiliation. When Su Fang destroyed the supreme sacred sect, he had used the yellow spring blood sea to destroy a sect. How terrifying was his strength! If Su Fang wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. He did not kill them not because Su Fang was merciful. How could such a person be merciful when he did not even blink when he devoured a sect? It was because Su Fang did not kill them at all. In Su Fang's firmament bright firmament sect, they were like adults who encountered a group. They might accidentally kill a few ants, but they would not be so as to kill every single ant. They were 9 worlds, 9 suns. In Su Fang's translation, they were like adults who had encountered ants. Translation 9, Su Fang words translation. Sometimes being Fang translation being. Sometimes translation the cultivators were translation Lu Ming cultivators translation was Fang translation was an expert. A single sentence was enough to make the Great Elder of the number 1 power of the immortal Tao slap himself in the face. This was a true expert, a true domineering aura. Fang the Elder, Jari Elder, sect. When he was slapping himself, he was afraid that Su Fang would not be satisfied. Thus, every slap was real and did not dare to use his true chi to resist. Now, both sides of his face were swollen like steamed buns, and his old face looked like a pig's head. How could he not hate him? "How dare you humiliate me like this? I'm going to kill you." The elder flipped his hand and took out a talisman. His eyes were cold. Cloud heaven, sacred ground. Mountains, rivers, and forests covered the entire material continent, which was thousands of miles in radius. It was full of spirit chi. The sky's sacred ground looked like a dojo, mystic realm. However, danger lurked everywhere in this vast territory. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and other powerful cultivators had finally opened up a passage through the outer clouds and mist and arrived at the cloud heaven sacred grounds material continent. At that time, a mid-stage Tao realm cultivator impatiently flew out and wanted to be the first to enter the palace in the center of the cloud heaven sacred ground. Who knew that a terrifying power of the world would shackle this mid-stage Tao realm cultivator? Then, a sharp lightning sword chi enveloped him. After a series of thunderous booms, this person turned into ashes and dissipated. There were still people who did not give up and try to fly in the sky. However, there were floating immortal clouds everywhere in the sky. It was inevitable that they bumped into a cluster of immortal clouds. In the end, These seemingly ordinary immortal clouds caused this early-stage Tao realm cultivator to fall into a strange, illusory space-time and disappear. If one wanted to enter the palace in the center, they could only walk on the ground. Every step on the ground was dangerous. There were all kinds of traps and attacks formed by array formations everywhere. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and other powerful cultivators paid the price of more than 10 cultivators' lives, and hundreds of people went missing. Only then did they advance more than 50 miles. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect had mobilized more than 1,000 powerful cultivators this time. The leader was Tao Master Han Su. The sect master could not manage the affairs of the sect until now. This time, the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect not only wanted to obtain Mother Yun's inheritance, but they also wanted to move the cloud heaven sacred ground to the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and make it the 82nd dojo of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. This would replenish the sect's providence and boost the already low morale at the same time. Buzz. Tao Master Han Su raised his eyebrows and took out a talisman from his storage ring. What? The Su Fong has appeared and is about to enter the cloud heaven sacred ground? Tao Master Han Su's expression changed as he deciphered the information in the talisman. The cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect all trembled uncontrollably. The cultivators from the other factions were startled too. The Su Fong, a black-robed elder beside Tao Master Han Su, raised his eyebrows, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. This elder was tall, and his face was gloomy. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, and his aura was extremely dangerous. He was like a ferocious bird. Furthermore, this elder's aura was even more profound than Tao Master Han Su's. He was a peerless cultivator at the peak of the advanced Tao realm. He's just a traitor disciple. Why are you so nervous? The black-robed elder's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Traitor disciple? Just a traitor. Cloud-piercing elder, you make it sound so easy. Even our first supreme elder is wary of him. How can I not be afraid of him? Tao Master Han Su smiled bitterly, and his eyes were filled with fear. This black-robed elder was the cloud-piercing sect's ancestor. He was a peerless cultivator at the peak of the advanced Tao realm. He had been in closed-door cultivation for millions of years and had just come out. As he was skilled in the great Tao of space and possessed an extremely powerful cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle, he was not afraid of the fog and formations in the cloud heaven sacred ground. Thus, he was specially invited by the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. The outside world has boasted about the power of the Su Fong, but I don't believe it. If he really comes to the cloud heaven sacred ground, I would like to have a fight with him. The cloud-piercing elder was obviously a battle-hungry person. When he heard that the Su Fong was about to come, not only was he not fearful, he even looked eager to fight. Tao Master Han Su smiled bitterly again and quickly took out a talisman and crushed it without hesitation. Chi! A beam of purple light shot into the sky and disappeared into the void, as if it had become one with the world. Just as he finished doing that, a heavenly mandate bright firmament sect cultivator suddenly exclaimed, Su Fong, it's Su Fong indeed. A figure shuttled out of the passage created by the formation and stepped onto the cloud heaven sacred ground material continent. Su Fong. The cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and other forces were extremely nervous. However, their escape route was blocked by Su Fong, and there were dangerous restrictions in front of them and in the air. Where could they escape to now? Whoosh! Su Fong flew into the air and flew toward the cultivators. He dares to fly in the air. He's really courting death. There are so many of us, but we don't dare to fly in the air. Why doesn't he think about it? How can there be no danger in the air? I didn't expect him to be an idiot with such a great reputation. Many of the cultivators were not surprised. Next, some of them ridiculed Su Fong, waiting to see a good show. If Su Fong were to fall into the fog or be killed by other restrictive spells, that would be a pleasant surprise. Under countless gazes, Su Fong flew slowly in the air. His eyes flickered with an ethereal and mysterious light. It was as if there were no secrets in the world under his gaze. His body was also shrouded by the divine power of the heavenly divination mystic solution. At the same time, he activated his perfection stage ability to the extreme. Su Fong clearly sensed the hidden restrictions in the cloud heaven sacred ground. Moreover, he used the heavenly divination mystic solution's supreme ability, the heavenly divination eye. Even if there were dangers that he could not see, he could foresee them in advance. In this state, Su Fong bypassed the restrictions everywhere. The divine clouds floating in the sky were actually illusionary fog created by the array formation. Once one fell into it, they would lose their sense of direction and be transported to an unknown time and space in the end. As there were too many divine clouds, Su Fong could not avoid them. However, under the detection of the perfection stage ability and the heavenly divination life shrinking technique, a mere fog could not confuse him at all. Naturally, he could easily escape from it. This scene, the cultivators of the Tianming Haozong sect and the peerless experts from the other sects were all dumbfounded. Even the arrogant ancestor of the cloud-crossing sect was in disbelief. Just like that, Su Fong flew unhurriedly. It only took him 15 minutes to cross the distance of more than 50 kilometers and arrive above the cultivators of the Tianming Haozong sect. Lord Dao Master Han Su, we meet again. Su Fong looked down like a god, overlooking the common people on the earth. Su Fong, Dao Master Han Su felt bitter. Back then, he was the high and mighty Grand Elder, while Su Fong was just a disciple. Now that their positions had swapped, and even their lives were in the hands of Su Fong, one could imagine how Dao Master Han Su felt. Su Fong said majestically, "Dao Master Han Su, you've always been fair among the grand elders of the Tianming Haozong sect, and I, Su Fong, have always respected you. However, you led the experts of the sect this time to hunt down my friends, and I have no choice but to attack you." Dao Master Han Su nodded and said, "I'm the Grand Elder of the Tianming Haozong sect, and you're a strong enemy of the sect. You and I are mortal enemies now, and naturally, we have to fight to the death." Su Fong's eyes exuded traces of murderous intent. Suddenly, a roar came from the palace in the center of the sky, sacred ground. It was the voice of the green, feathered demon emperor. Su Fong's divine light changed instantly, and he ignored the cultivators of the Tianming Haozong sect and was about to fly toward the central area. However, at this moment, Chapter 1704, Chapter 1723, the heavenly fate Haoyan sect moves out the cloud, piercing progenitor separated his palms after performing a hand seal. A dark mist burst out from his palms and instantly shrouded the area within 100 li. 9 Truths and 9 Suns, Chapter 1723. Whoosh. A black claw print burst out from the black mist with an overwhelming aura. It grabbed at Su Fong with an aura of the laws that could tear the heavens and earth apart. Heavenly yellow tyrant dragon claw. Su Fong unleashed his dragon chi. His right arm swiftly transformed into the form of a dragon. Following this, a giant golden claw print over 100 zhong long shuddered in the air. The claw print was as quick as lightning. Not only was it able to crush anything, it even shattered space and the laws of laws. It collided with the black claw print unleashed by the cloud-piercing progenitor. Bang! An enormous bang that shook the heavens resounded, and it shook the entire sky-hallowed grounds to the point of trembling abruptly. Countless restrictions and formations were activated, and they erupted with lightning and sword chi that were dense like raindrops. The golden claw print and the black claw print shattered at the same time. They were evenly matched. Impressive indeed, but it's not enough to be smug in front of me. You must be in a hurry to save that rock, right? By the time you arrive, he'll most likely be torn to pieces by my cloud-piercing feathered eagle. You won't be able to save him even if you go there. Why don't you stay here and fight me?" The great ancestor of the cloud-piercing sect smiled sinisterly. He urged the black clouds to churn for a while before another claw struck out. "You're asking for it." The green feathered demon emperor was in a critical moment. Su Fong was burning with anxiety and didn't want to kill him. However, This black-robed old man was entangling with him at this moment, which completely aroused Su Fong's killing intent. The yin-yang Tao will suddenly trembled, and suddenly a suction force burst out, pulling all the Zhun Qi and energy in his body into the world tree through the Yang Meridian, using the yin-yang Tao wheel's power to operate the yin-yang Tao wheel. Bang! The force of the world of yin and yang burst out and swept across his flesh. The force of the world of yin and yang was unleashed, covering an area of over 3,000 zhang. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The eerie black claw print and the black mist formed by the cloud-piercing ancestors' divine might were all shattered and dissipated. Even the restrictions in this area were all shattered, and they were turned into nothingness without releasing any power. At this moment, Su Fong became the universe of heaven and earth. He was the master of everything in his own world. The Grand Master of the Cloud Crossing sect, Holy Man Han Su, and the other cultivators felt as if the world had changed and they had completely lost their connection with nature. This feeling was as if he had arrived at another universe. All the supernatural powers that he had previously grasped, which were based on the power of nature and the laws of nature, were all difficult to perform. Su Fong carried the aura of a supreme ruler and arrived in front of the cloud-piercing ancestor in a flash. The great ancestor of the cloud-piercing sect turned pale with fright. He hurriedly exploded the genuine qi in his body in an attempt to escape the suppression of the Su Fong. However, without the essence of heaven and earth and the power of the stars, how much strength could he have left with just his own genuine qi? Su Fong grabbed the Grandmaster of the cloud-piercing sect by the neck as if he was grabbing a chicken. After ascending to the advanced level of the Tao realm, Su Fongda's perfect physical body and the power of his perfect physical body had also evolved. After his body became a world, it was extremely powerful. Not only did the divine might of the yin-yang world become stronger, it could also be maintained for a longer period of time. Its range had also reached 3,000 feet. The Grandmaster of the cloud-piercing sect's eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. He never thought that a peerless master at the peak of the advanced level of the Tao realm, one of the top existences in the greater world, would be reduced to a weakling in front of Su Fong. Amidst his shock and fear, a strong sense of regret surged in the Grandmaster of the cloud-piercing sect's heart. Have I been possessed? Why did I provoke this malefic star? Holy Man Han Su's heart was in turmoil. Advanced level of the Tao realm. Su Fong's strength has increased again. He can even easily suppress a peerless master. With his current strength, even without the help of other masters, he can probably fight head-on with the first Supreme Elder. Holy Man Han Su then felt a wave of bitterness in his heart. How many peerless masters have there been in the long history of the greater world? Not only did the sect not support and nurture him, but they also suppressed him and even wanted to suppress him. How can the heavenly fate Hao Tsong sect not be destroyed? The other cultivators of the heavenly fate Hao Tsong sect and the other masters from the immortal realms were all extremely shocked. Here's the biscuit reading. Su Fong saw that the black-robed old man was not weak, so he planned to subdue him and make him his slave master. However, at this moment, the undead king's voice sounded from the sky burying dark coffin. Master, can you give this person to me? Su Fong was stunned. Give him to you? If you devour him, will you be able to completely recover your previous strength? Master, I'm not going to devour his life force to increase my strength. Instead, I'm going to sacrifice his life force to the supreme evil god. In return, I'll be able to obtain a trace of the evil god's power as a reward. In this way, not only will I be able to recover to my previous peak strength, I might even be able to break through to the demigod realm or even higher. Su Fong was shocked. Sacrifice? Why haven't I heard you mention this before? The undead lord replied, It was only after I recovered to the peak of the Tao realm that I received the guidance of the evil god and learned of this cultivation method. I'm guessing that it's not just me, but other resurrected masters who have reached the peak of the Tao realm also have this cultivation method. There's such an evil cultivation method? Luo Tsung's voice sounded from the blood jade. Only the evil masters of the myriad worlds have the supreme, evil cultivation method of sacrificing life force. Of course you don't know about it. The evil god can obtain great power by absorbing the life force of the sacrifices, and the sacrificer can obtain the power bestowed by the evil god. It's basically a transaction. The undead king is sacrificing the life force of cultivators to the evil god to make the evil god stronger. Isn't this the same as funding the enemy? Luo Tsong laughed. Funding the enemy? You're still considered a master in the great world, but in front of the evil god of the divine realm, you're not even an ant. What right do you have to fund him? Don't worry, the life force of the undead king's sacrifice is insignificant to the evil god. It's dispensable, but the benefits the undead king will obtain are beyond your imagination. Su Fong couldn't help but laugh. The evil god could create a divine sun in the sky just by releasing its evil power. Compared to him, Su Fong was just too insignificant. Because the undead king's mind and consciousness were controlled by Night Demon's second primordial spirit, his previous peak state was the limit he could reach. There was no room for improvement. By sacrificing to the evil god, the undead king's future was limitless. He might even reach the divine realm. Moreover, with the undead king's mind and consciousness controlled, there was no need to worry about his betrayal in the future. Subduing this black-robed old man was just another master at the pinnacle. Moreover, with such a high level of cultivation, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't betray them in the future. After all, other than the king-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Elixir, Su Fong couldn't come up with anything that could win the loyalty of such a powerful master. Rather than that, it was better to nurture the undead king. Su Fong didn't hesitate anymore. Cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes as he looked at the cloud-piercing Grandmaster. Submit. The black-robed old man finally showed fear and spat out 2 words from his throat with difficulty. Unfortunately, you're not qualified, Su Fong said coldly. He clenched his hand, and a burst of Yin-Yang world power rushed into the cloud-piercing Grandmaster's Dantian. It shattered his golden core and Dantian, and then stored them in the True Dragon realm. Whoosh! Su Fong tore through the air and left. He didn't have time to pay attention to Dao Master Han, Su, and the other cultivators. The cultivators of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect who were lucky enough to escape the calamity only slowly recovered from their shock and fear when Su Fong disappeared from their sight. If the sect fails to kill Su Fong this time, it won't be long before it's completely destroyed. Dao Master Han, Su muttered to himself, his eyes filled with worry. At this moment, outside the cloud heaven sacred ground, rumble. Thunder rumbled in the sky. In an instant, the entire sky darkened. The void high up in the sky seemed to be torn apart by the hand of the heavenly Tao. The outline of a huge formation surged out from it. Boom! A burst of world power suddenly descended into the chaotic void around the cloud heaven's sacred ground and covered a distance of 1,000 miles. The chaotic void was also suppressed by a majestic force. Everything within this range, including the objects, ruins, and a few unlucky cultivators, were instantly reduced to nothingness before they could even struggle. A large space formation descended. The divine power of the spatial distortion quickly dissipated, and the figures in the space formation quickly became real. The person in charge was the first Supreme Elder of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. Behind him stood more than 100,000 cultivators, including the first Supreme Elder, the Grand Supreme Elder, and the Elders. The Lord of the Demon World and the Demon Race's Holy Son, Ming Yin, was also among the cultivators of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. The Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect had created a huge space teleportation formation. Almost all of the sect's elite forces were mobilized to teleport directly from the central immortal territory to the Cloud Heaven sacred ground. Just how much energy would it take to teleport so many cultivators at once? Just how much energy would it take to teleport them all at once? Even if a first-rate force in a great world added up all their assets, it would still be difficult to cover the huge cost of teleportation. In order to kill Su Fong, The heavenly fate Haotsong sect did not hesitate to pay a heavy price this time. Swoosh, swoosh. More than 100,000 heavenly fate Haotsong sect cultivators created a large space formation that surrounded the cloud heaven sacred ground. Tao Master Han, Su hurried over. Greetings, First Supreme Elder. Where is Su Fong? The First Supreme Elder asked imposingly. Su Fong has already entered the cloud heaven sacred ground in order to save that demonic rock. The First Supreme Elder raised his eyebrows and said coldly, He entered the cloud heaven sacred ground? Why didn't you stop him? Chapter 1705. He ascended to the advanced Dao realm so quickly and killed a peak Dao master in a second. Supreme First Elder's eyes flashed with a bright light, revealing a look of shock and fear. 9 True, 9 Sons, Chapter 1724. Hiss! The dozen or so heavenly mandate Haotsong sect's leaders and high-ranking officials beside First Supreme Elder gasped in shock. The Lord of the Demon World and Ming Yen were equally shocked. No matter how heaven-defying this boy is, he won't be able to escape his fate of being suppressed this time, First Supreme Elder said confidently. The others did not know where First Supreme Elder's confidence came from. Clearly, they were not as confident as him. They did not believe him and were filled with fear and dread towards Su Fong. Even the Lord of the Demon World and Ming Yin were not confident. First Supreme Elder saw their expressions and snorted coldly. Then, he sent out a nascent soul message. Patriarch, should we enter the cloud heaven sacred ground and kill Su Fong? An old man who was besieging the cloud heaven sacred ground in the distance exuded an aura that was only at the 8 Paths Saint Celestial stage. Among the cultivators sent by the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, such a cultivation base was very ordinary and unremarkable. Moreover, he was ordered around by an elder and had a very low status. The voice of the First Supreme Elder's Yuan spirit was directed at this unassuming old man. If I attack, I must kill him with one strike. Otherwise, if I attract the attention of the heavenly Tao, not only will I die, but the entire heavenly mandate Haotsong sect will be doomed as well. This cloud heaven sacred ground is not simple. I can vaguely sense the aura of a deity. I'm afraid there will be some changes. Let's surround the cloud heaven sacred ground first, so that Su Fong can't escape. First Supreme Elder was shocked. The cloud heaven sacred ground has the aura of a deity. Could it be the 2 deities by Su Fong's side? No, I've sensed Su Fong's presence earlier. There are indeed 2 deities' auras in this boy's body. One is only the nascent soul of the Azura clan, and the other is extremely weak. I can barely sense it. It should be the God World expert who went by the name of Ji Hong and came from the lower realm. That God World expert can be ignored. The main thing is the Azura clan. The Azura clan is God Azura clan. They're Azura gods. Although they're only nascent souls, they will still be my enemy. The gods, the God World experts. The worlds, the experts. The strange thing is the aura words, the aura of the realms, that is the God World's origin realm, origin. She mother, she. Mother cloud mother is mother yin, cloud translation earth, translation cloud translation earth cloud. The First Supreme Elder was shocked once again. Whether they could kill Su Fong or not was related to the survival of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. Although the First Supreme Elder was confident, he did not dare to be careless. He personally arranged the troops and took out his trump card Dao artifact. He even took out the Grand Brilliance Bell to create layers of powerful array formations outside the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. Inside the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect, Su Fong naturally did not know what was happening outside. Even if he knew, he would not care about the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect because he was worried about the safety of the green feathered demon arch. It was only a few thousand miles from the edge of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect to the palace in the central area. If it was natural, Su Fong could reach it in a flash. However, this was the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. Although Su Fong could sense and see through the restrictions and traps, His speed was also affected. It took him 5 minutes to reach the central area. The central area. It was filled with ethereal and ever-changing immortal fog. Through the immortal fog, one could see the palaces and pavilions inside, as well as the fake mountains and flowing water. It was so beautiful that it was like a miracle. However, Su Fong could sense the great danger hidden under the beautiful appearance through the heavenly fate life, shrinking technique, and a heavenly divination mystic solution. These clouds and mist were just illusions that could deceive the senses of immortals and even make them lose their essence spirit consciousness. It was extremely powerful. Su Fong also sensed that there was an extremely terrifying thunder element power rolling and roaring under the beautiful clouds and mist illusion. There are also existences that did not look like living beings. They contained terrifying thunder element power, which made Su Fong feel apprehensive. Su Fong was skilled and bold. In addition, he was eager to save the green feathered demon arch. Why would he care about these dangers? He used the heavenly fate life shrinking technique to capture the green feathered demon Thearka's aura. I am Biensi. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The Tao runes of the heavenly fate life shrinking technique immediately flashed out from the depths of his divine aperture and miraculously merged together to form the image of the green feathered demon arch. Over there, Su Fong caught the green feathered demon Thearka's aura of destiny and was instantly overjoyed. He immediately went straight to where the green feathered demon arch was. Suddenly, buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong had just rushed into the immortal mist, and the Tao runes of the heavenly fate life shrinking technique actually caused a huge commotion again. There was a very strong, very clear, and familiar aura in these Tao runes. After a portion of the Tao runes merged together, it turned into the image of a woman. Huang Lingyao. Huang Lingyao is indeed from the cloud sky, sacred ground. Su Fongdao was shocked that his previous guess was confirmed. In such a short time, Huang Lingyao has actually advanced to the early stage of the Tao realm. It's simply unbelievable. No wonder she has the Tao body and is a peerless genius who has merged with the cloud sky thundersword. However, compared to me, she is too weak. The Huang Lingyao that I used to look up to is now far behind me. While Su Fong was shocked, he smiled proudly, and a strong sense of confidence arose spontaneously. It could be said to be a miracle that Huang Lingyao could advance to the early stage of the Tao realm in just a few thousand years. Just the Tao body and the cloud sky thundersword were obviously not enough. She must have received the inheritance of the cloud sky sacred ground or obtained some other great opportunity or great fortune. However, compared to Su Fong, Huang Lingyao's achievements were far from enough. Although there were only 2 steps between the early stage of the Tao realm and the advanced stage of the Tao realm, it was actually like the gap between heaven and earth. Not only did it require a long time to settle down, talent, luck, cultivation techniques, and Tao heart were all indispensable. Moreover, Su Fong was at the advanced stage of the Tao realm. He was not someone that could be compared to those of the same level. No matter how Huang Lingyao tried to catch up, it would be difficult for her to catch up to Su Fong's pace. Huang Lingyao, after rescuing Senior Qingyu, I will also completely settle all the previous grudges. Su Fong's eyes exuded coldness as he passed through the clouds and mist. In an instant, everything that was seen and heard by the eyes outside changed. This place was an extraterritorial space. The entire space was filled with rolling dark clouds. The only source of light was the flashes of lightning that flashed across the sky. In the sea of clouds, there were occasionally monsters flashing with lightning. They shuttled back and forth in the sea of clouds, revealing a violent aura. Some of the monsters had reached the advanced stage of the Tao realm, which made Su Fong extremely wary. In the center of the dark clouds, a huge palace stood in the center, giving people a feeling that the sky was shaking. Bolts of lightning fell from the void, bathing the entire palace in lightning. It was extremely gorgeous and gave people a strong visual impact. The aura of the Qingyu Demon Emperor and Huang Lingyao were both in the palace flashing with lightning. This is the true face of the cloud heaven sacred ground. Cloud Mother was also a supreme expert to be able to create the cloud heaven sacred ground. After a moment of amazement, Su Fong activated the power of the yin-yang world to form a layer of protection. At the same time, the power of the yin-yang world also isolated him from the outside world. Whoosh! Su Fong was like an arrow released from a bow, shuttling through the sea of clouds and lightning. The bolts of lightning were like the whips of the thunder god, fiercely whipping Su Fong. However, when they touched the protection of the power of the yin-yang world on Su Fong, they were disintegrated by the power of the yin-yang world and finally turned into nothingness. As Su Fong concealed his aura, the thunder-type monsters could not sense his existence. Except for a few that were directly killed by Su Fong with the underworld Samsara sword and dissipated into lightning, the other thunder-type monsters were not alarmed. After a dozen breaths, Su Fong successfully arrived at the entrance of the palace. Senior Qingyu. Su Fong could not help but exclaim when he saw the green-feathered demon emperor in the center of the palace. The main hall of the Thunder Palace was extremely large, about 10,000 feet in size, like a void world. In the palace, there was a lifelike statue of a woman. Her face was extremely beautiful, revealing a heroic and domineering aura that ordinary women did not have. There was a mysterious pattern of lightning piercing through the clouds between her eyebrows. Her eyes were extremely deep, and there were faint flashes of lightning in them. Although it was only a statue, it gave off a huge pressure, making people want to prostrate themselves in worship and submit to the woman's skirt. The green-feathered demon emperor, who had transformed into a huge green rock, lay in the center of the palace. His body was covered with burn marks from the thunder and lightning. A large number of feathers had fallen off, revealing shocking scars. The most serious injury was his heart, where a sharp claw had scratched out a wound of more than 10 feet long. His flesh and blood had burst open, revealing his heart, and blood was constantly spurting out. Not far from the green-feathered demon emperor sat a black-robed man with a deep and wild demonic aura. It was the cloud-piercing feathered eagle. Secondly, it was seriously injured. There was a bloody claw mark from its forehead to its mouth, and one of its eyeballs was hanging on its face. It looked very ferocious. The green-feathered demon emperor and the cloud-piercing feathered eagle were not the only ones in the palace. There were more than 30 cultivators. Judging from their robes and auras, most of them were from the Tianming Hao Tsang sect. There were more than 20 of them, and the rest were experts from the 8 forces. These cultivators surrounded the green-feathered demon emperor and the cloud-piercing feathered eagle in the center, forcing the 2 peerless big goblin to submit. When these people entered the periphery of the sky, sacred ground, to search for treasures, they were lost in the heavy fog. They did not expect to appear here and join forces to deal with the green-feathered demon emperor and the cloud-piercing feathered eagle. Hearing Su Fong's voice, the cultivators all looked at the door. A Tianming Hao Tsang sect cultivator recognized Su Fong, and his expression changed instantly. Su Fong, he's Su Fong. At the same time, Su Fong. Chapter 1706. Su Fong strode into the main hall and came to the side of the green-feathered demon emperor. 9 True, 9 Yang, Chapter 1725. Those cultivators were intimidated by Su Fong's reputation and involuntarily retreated. No one dared to stop him. The remaining eye of the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle, which had transformed into a black-robed cultivator, flashed with a sharp light as it carefully sized up Su Fong. This demon had a special eye talent and could see that Su Fong's strength had reached the advanced stage of the Tao realm. Such strength, whether in the world of the immortal path, the demon world, or the devil world, could be regarded as a peerless expert. However, a hint of disdain flashed in the deep eyes of the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle. It was actually Su Fong's disdain. The cloud-piercing feathered eagle also sensed that Su Fong's body contained boundless vitality and yang qi. Greed appeared in his eyes, but he had no intention of attacking for the time being. "Senior, are you all right?" Seeing that the green-feathered demon emperor was so severely injured, Su Fong's heart twitched, and his eyes exuded a trace of coldness. I won't die for the time being. Kid, you're finally willing to show up. If you didn't show up, I would have really lost my life here. Although the green feather demon emperor was seriously injured, he was still arrogant and domineering. At this time, the cloud-piercing feathered eagle laughed and said, "Although I won't die for the time being, after a while, not only you, but also this kid will either be suppressed by the master of the cloud heaven's sacred ground or devoured by me and become nutrients for my recovery." Su Fong's divine light swept across the cloud-piercing feathered eagle and smiled indifferently. He did not take this demon seriously at all. Even the cloud-piercing feathered eagle's master, cloud-piercing ancestor, had been suppressed by Su Fong and was now shackled in the true dragon world. Soon, he would become a sacrifice for the undead king to the evil god. Why would Su Fong care about him? Senior, open your mouth. Su Fong threw a king-grade yin-yang immortal sky elixir into the green-feathered demon emperor's mouth. Brat, why are you so stingy this time? You actually only gave me one yin-yang immortal vast pellet. This pellet, it's a king-grade yin-yang immortal vast pellet. The king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pellet was not an ordinary pellet. The green feather demon emperor was currently in a severely injured state. If he was given too much, it would be difficult for him to completely digest the medicinal strength. As soon as the king-grade yin-yang immortal sky elixir entered his mouth, Demon Emperor Green Feather immediately felt the amazing medicinal efficacy, which ignited the demon chi and life force in his body. His extremely withered spirit suddenly became hale and hearty, and his demon chi and life force were rapidly recovering. Brat, what kind of pills are those? Give them all to this emperor, and this emperor might be happy and let you off this time. The cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle's domineering voice rang out. You're courting death. Su Fong coldly glanced at the cloud-piercing eagle and sneered disdainfully. The cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle said sinisterly, Arrogant human brat, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame this emperor for being ruthless later. Su Fong no longer paid attention to this arrogant big goblin. His cold eyes looked into the depths of the palace, and the corners of his mouth raised, revealing a mocking smile. Senior sister Huang Lingyao, I didn't expect us to meet again. You and I are really fated. Su Fong. Huang Lingyao's voice came from the depths of the palace. The grudge between the two was too deep. It was impossible for Huang Lingyao not to hate Su Fong. Thinking back to when she was in the small world of the Celestial Sealing Sect, what was Su Fong? But she, Huang Lingyao, was the proud daughter of heaven of the Celestial Sealing Sect. She was high and mighty, and could crush Su Fong with a finger. In the great world, Huang Lingyao relied on her own stunning talent to become the proud daughter of heaven of the White Sun sect of the Heavenly Tao. At that time, Su Fong was just a lowly disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens with a different surname, just like a servant. However, in the end, their identities and statuses quickly underwent an earth-shattering change. Su Fong rose rapidly, and soon became a peerless powerhouse whose name shook the world. And although Huang Lingyao was still a proud daughter of heaven, she was thousands of miles away from Su Fong. What made Huang Lingyao feel the greatest shame of her life was that Su Fong disguised himself as the gold-faced young master. She was like a lowly woman, currying favor with Su Fong. She even almost gave her body to Su Fong, and was taken advantage of by Su Fong. Every time she thought of the scene of Su Fong grabbing her sensitive parts, Huang Lingyao would wake up from a nightmare, and her heart would twitch. This matter became a knot in her heart, and after that, even her cultivation was shackled. In the end, Huang Lingyao had no choice but to leave the immortal domain like a stray dog. With such a deep hatred, how could Huang Lingyao not grit her teeth and hate Su Fong? Now that they met again, Huang Lingyao thought of that humiliating scene again, and her chest hurt again. She felt like she was being ruthlessly ravaged by ghost claws. At this time, Su Fong no longer had a trace of hatred for Huang Lingyao, but a kind of disdain and contempt in his heart. He then mocked and ridiculed. Senior sister Huang Lingyao, why don't I see Lord Long? I thought you would be together with him. Huang Lingyao said fiercely. Who does Lord Long count for? He's just a stepping stone for me to reach the peak of the great world, and he's the most insignificant kind. After leaving the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, I devoured him, and his draconic qi became my powerful nutrients. What a merciless woman! When Lord Long was useful to her, she would use all means to please and curry favor with him. When he was no longer useful, she would mercilessly devour him. However, when he thought about how Huang Lingyao could even devour her own sister, it did not seem incomprehensible that she would devour Lord Long. Then, Huang Lingyao's cold voice sounded again. Not only Lord Long, but after a while, even you will become the nutrients for my cultivation, Huang Lingyao. I want you to use everything you have to repay the humiliation you brought me. Seeing your sister Huang Lingyao, you are so confident. I wonder what gives you the right to be so confident. I, Huang Lingyao, am now the master of the cloud heaven's sacred ground. These experts in the main hall are all my slaves. Su Feng, no matter how extraordinary you are, now that you are trapped in the cloud heaven's sacred ground and facing so many peerless experts, let's see how big of a splash you can make. Huang Lingyao let out a burst of crisp laughter. She seemed extremely smug and happy, as though she was in control of the situation. Su Feng glanced at the more than 30 experts from the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect and the other forces in the main hall, and raised his eyebrows. Senior sister Huang Lingyao is indeed worthy of possessing a Tao body. At the same time, she also possesses supreme providence to be able to obtain the inheritance of the cloud heaven's sacred ground. Moreover, her methods are so extraordinary that she can easily control so many experts. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect is just a springboard for me. I'm only relying on the powerful force of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect to find the cloud heaven's sacred ground. I have merged with the cloud heaven thundersword. As long as I find the cloud heaven's sacred ground, it won't be difficult for me to obtain the inheritance of Mother Yun. With the help of Mother Yun's supreme inheritance, I became a celestial venerable expert in just a few thousand years. Who in the great world can compare to me with such talent? I, Huang Lingyao, am definitely not a fish in a pond. I have been hibernating for thousands of years. Now is the time for me to soar into the sky. I controlled the cloud heaven's sacred ground to appear in the chaotic space-time outside the chaotic sky great world with the purpose of attracting experts here. I'll use the cloud heaven's sacred ground to control a large number of experts and make them my slaves. At that time, I, Huang Lingyao, will also be able to become an overlord of the great world. What a joke. These so-called experts are blinded by greed. As soon as the cloud heaven sacred ground appeared, they rushed into the cloud heaven sacred ground like moths to a flame. Naturally, I captured them one by one and made them all my slaves, including those peak Tao realm experts. As long as they enter the cloud heaven sacred ground, none of them will be able to escape my suppression. Huang Lingyao's voice was domineering, and she was very proud. Su Feng could not help but admire this woman. This woman had providence, ambition, and talent. At the same time, she had an extremely ruthless Tao heart, as well as a rare boldness and domineering aura. This time, using the cloud heaven's sacred ground to suppress so many experts and establishing an overlord of the great world was not impossible. Su Feng, I heard from my slaves that you've been extremely glorious in the great world all these years. You're the #1 genius of the great world, the hero who saved the immortal Tao world, and the peerless expert who shook the heavenly fate Hao Tsang sect. TSK. How impressive. Even I am extremely shocked. Unfortunately, you're not lucky enough to enter the cloud heaven's sacred ground. You can only blame yourself for being too unlucky. After Huang Lingyao mocked Su Feng, let's completely settle the grudge between us today. Let me see if your so-called #1 genius of the great world, a peerless figure who can contend with a demigod expert, is just a boast, or have you really grown to this extent? As soon as the voice that was filled with murderous intent fell, Huang Lingyao immediately issued a cold order to more than 30 cultivators. Suppress him. Remember, don't kill him. Just shackle him. I want him to regret being born into this world. Here's reading biscuits. Su Fong smiled helplessly and touched the tip of his nose. It seems that Huang Lingyao's resentment towards me is not ordinary. At this moment, laughter came from the blood jade in his body. Who told you to take advantage of her, but not be willing to take her into your harem? Retribution has come, hasn't it? Luo, that was unintentional, okay? I never thought of Huang Lingyao as a woman. Her tofu, I don't want to take advantage of her. Su Fong replied helplessly. Of the more than 30 cultivators controlled by Huang Lingyao in the main hall, the strongest was at the advanced stage of the Dao realm, and the weaker ones were at the beginner stage of the Dao realm. Such a force could completely establish a powerful force in the great world. The only shortcoming was that they did not have a peak expert. However, these people all looked at Su Fong with trembling expressions. After Huang Lingyao issued the order, they actually cowered and did not dare to step forward. Su Fong had made a name for himself in the battle where he destroyed the supreme sacred sect. At this moment, in the great world, the peak experts of the advanced stage of the Dao realm shuddered when they heard Su Fong's name. Among these cultivators, the strongest was only at the advanced stage of the Dao realm. Chapter 1707. Su Fong mocked, Senior Sister Huang Lingyao, your slaves don't seem to be very obedient. A bunch of trash. Huang Lingyao couldn't help but fly into a rage out of humiliation. Puff! The head of an early-stage Dao realm powerhouse suddenly exploded, and his brain matter splattered everywhere. Huang Lingyao's murderous voice came from the depths of the palace. Those who don't obey my orders must all die. It turned out that Huang Lingyao had planted imprints in the divine apertures of these powerhouses. After being activated by her, she could easily kill these slaves. At this moment, she killed a venerable immortal so easily. From this, one could see how ruthless Huang Lingyao's methods were. Kill him. Under Huang Lingyao's strong coercion, the other cultivators didn't dare to hesitate and rush towards Su Fong. I just happened to need some energy and life essence to replenish my previous consumption. Since Senior Sister Huang Lingyao has delivered herself to me, I will gladly accept all of them. Su Fong let out a domineering and incomparably cold laugh. When entering the Cloudland, Su Fong had fought with the cloud-piercing ancestor, which consumed a lot of energy. When entering this Thunder Hall, he once again used the divine power of the yin-yang world, which consumed more than half of his true qi and energy. Huang Lingyao delivered more than 30 powerhouses to him. How could Su Fong not accept them? As for whether Huang Lingyao's heart would bleed or not, that was none of Su Fong's business. He struck out a Xianguang and took the Cyan Feather Demon Emperor into the time and space cave. The next moment, whoosh, after quickly forming a seal, Su Fong activated the underworld golden body, which immediately collapsed. With a splash, blood rolled out in all directions, sweeping toward the more than 30 cultivators and the cloud-piercing feathered eagle on the ground. As the blood overflowed, it almost covered the entire hall. The terrifying reincarnation and devouring power enveloped the more than 30 venerable immortals. They had nowhere to run, so they unleashed all their strength, trying to shatter and evaporate the blood. Go. The blood water was shaken to the point of rolling. Su Fong felt a little overwhelmed after devouring so many powerhouses at the same time. He immediately released Gue to help him share the burden. Chi! A stream of black blood shot out from the blood, like a black python, and coiled around the strongest Dao realm expert. The terrifying poison quickly corroded the man's defenses layer by layer, and then his flesh fetus divine armor. After a series of miserable shrieks, this high-level Dao realm expert was melted into a pool of blood by Gue's poison. Whoosh! Gue was like a terrifying demon as he charged towards the other cultivators. How dare you take the initiative to attack me? Human brat, you're courting death. The cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle was also covered by the yellow spring blood sea, and it immediately let out a furious roar. An aura burst out from his body, releasing a powerful spatial distortion divine might, setting off a whirlwind that spiraled and whistled, forming a spatial divine might barrier around him. Boom! The yellow spring blood sea crashed into the barrier, causing it to shake. However, the whirlwind drew the blood water to one side, and the barrier was undamaged. This cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle's strength was close to that of a demon saint, which was about the same level as an ordinary high-level Tao realm cultivator. Although he was severely injured, the big goblin's innate ability was extraordinary. Su Fang's yellow spring blood sea could not do anything to him. You have some skills. No wonder you're so arrogant. But you don't have the right to be arrogant in front of me. Su Fang condensed from the blood water and then used the Black Moon Demon Deterrence token. A divine might that made the big goblin tremble in fear was released from the Black Moon Demon Deterrence token. Although the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle was infinitely close to a demon saint, it was still not a demon saint. Su Fang's Black Moon Demon Deterrence token had a deterrent effect on all big goblins below the demon saint level, and the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle was no exception. However, it did not have much of an effect on him, only making his body tremble violently. What Su Fang needed was precisely this moment of opportunity. Boom! With a boom, a layer of white flames burned from the blood water. Nine Sun Celestial Fire. The Nine Sun Celestial Fire, which already had a certain level of divine flame characteristics, was extremely domineering. Coupled with the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle's divine might, a flaw had appeared due to the Black Moon Demon Deterrence token. Right now, the Nine Sun Celestial Fire was incinerating it layer by layer, and it looked like it was about to completely collapse. What a terrifying flame! Only then did the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle put away its previous arrogance and fall into a state of intense shock. Even your master, cloud-piercing ancestor, was suppressed by me. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Go accompany your master. Boom! 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 Su Fang activated the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. The surging blood water was like a tsunami, carrying the blazing Nine Sun Celestial Fire as it pressed down on the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle. You're just an advanced Tao realm cultivator, yet you dare to boast about suppressing my master? Human brat, I'll let you witness this emperor's innate ability. The cloud-piercer dark-feathered eagle's remaining eye suddenly shot out a strand of dark light that condensed into a crescent moon. It carried a terrifying aura that seemed capable of tearing apart the heavens and the earth as it forcefully split the nether spring sea of blood into two halves, and then it slashed towards Su Fang like a bolt of lightning. A divine art released from the eye? What a coincidence! I know a little of it too. Su Fang smiled coldly, a wisp of fire suddenly burning in his eyes. The moment the light lit up, it traversed through space and landed in the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle's eye. Illusory fire divine art, heaven-burning eye. The cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle saw a ball of flame suddenly explode, and then its remaining eye burst into flames with a boom. This demon already had one of its eyes destroyed by the green feather demon emperor, and now its remaining eye was burned by the flames of Su Fang's heaven-burning eye. No matter how fierce it was, it could not bear such intense pain, and after a miserable scream, it immediately fainted. And all this happened in a flash. When the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle was seriously injured and unconscious, the black crescent moon it released was still 3 feet away from Su Fang's head. At this moment, it lost control and immediately collapsed, turning into a black Xian Guang and dissipating. Boom! The surging Yellow Springs blood sea instantly swallowed the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle. The terrifying power of the Nine Sun Celestial Fire and the unparalleled devouring power of the Yellow Springs blood sea quickly incinerated and swallowed this big goblin. A peerless big goblin that was infinitely close to becoming a demon saint had fallen. Su Fang unceremoniously refined the body of the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle, condensed the refined life essence into a ball of energy, and sent it to the side of the green feather demon emperor, who was recovering in the Cave of Time. Damn feathered beast, you also have such an ending? The green feathered demon emperor said fiercely and swallowed the ball of energy into his stomach. Bai Ling glared at the green feathered demon emperor. You green rock, you called the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle a feathered beast. Aren't you scolding yourself and me together? The green feathered demon emperor was startled at first, and then burst into laughter. How delightful! Then Su Fong gave the life essence of the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle to Bai Ling to devour. The cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle, like Bai Ling and the green feathered demon emperor, were all flying big goblins. Devouring the life essence of the cloud-piercing black-feathered eagle was of great benefit to both the green-feathered demon emperor's recovery and Bai Ling's cultivation. In the main hall, in just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, more than 30 experts, all of whom were Dao realm experts, were devoured by Su Fong and Gue Gue. Su Fong shrank his blood and returned to his physical state. After devouring so many experts, Su Fong had almost recovered the energy and genuine qi that he had consumed before. However, the genuine qi in his golden core origin and the life force in his body had not increased much. After reaching the advanced level of the Dao realm, Su Fong's appetite had become bigger and bigger. Devouring ordinary Dao realm experts was of little help to his cultivation. Even the advanced level of the Dao realm experts were the same. It was good to use them to recover. Gue Gue did not reject anyone. More than half of the 30 celestial primes were devoured by it. Su Fong could not refine all of them at once. He put the corpses into his storage ring and stored them as cultivation resources. It would be good to give them to his big goblin to cultivate. Su Fong, I must kill you. I will tear you into pieces and skin you alive. After a long silence in the depths of the palace, Huang Lingyao's voice, which sounded like it came from an icy plain, was heard. She had obtained Mother Yun's inheritance and broken through to the Dao realm. Then, she used the cloud heaven holy ground to control so many experts with great difficulty. She was ready to carry out her grand plan and establish her own unparalleled hegemony in the macro world. At this moment, more than 30 immortal venerables, all of whom were supremes among the immortals, were not some random Tom, Dick, or Harry. Yet, all of them were devoured by Su Fong without leaving a single trace behind. Huang Lingyao was not heartbroken. Instead, her heart was bleeding. Her anger towards Su Fong could burn the sky. Huang Lingyao was not only angry, but also shocked by Su Fong's powerful strength. This shock soon turned into jealousy. It was only now that she finally understood how powerful Su Fong was. She was more than 10 times more terrifying than what the experts under her described. She was so powerful that she needed to look up to her. Compared to Su Fong, the achievements that she was so proud of, what did they amount to? 9 truths and 9 sons. The huge contrast made Huang Lingyao involuntarily feel a strong sense of jealousy. What? Did I poke senior sister Huang Lingyao's sore spot? Since that's the case, why don't you do it yourself? Su Fong mocked. Of course, I have to suppress you personally. Otherwise, how can I calm my anger? Huang Lingyao had just finished speaking through gritted teeth when a rumble of thunder sounded in the main hall. Huang Lingyao appeared 1,000 feet away from Su Fong with a flash of lightning. It was a figure that could not be more familiar. Huang Lingyao. She was wrapped in a black fur coat. Lightning flashed around her, and her long hair danced with the lightning. She stood there coldly and proudly, merging with the world of the main hall.